Welcome to Sikem 365 Radio.
Emery somehow did that. Flag is down back at the 17. Wesley Steiner came right in on John Emery, and Emery dismissed him. John Emery, welcome back.
Sikem 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
They might go for it, and they do. 4th down and 5. Chapin and Baylor. His throw for Baldwin. Has a first down across the 40 and then some. Oh, the speed! 70 yards! Sparks off his shoes for Monterey Baldwin.
Sikem 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Milroy steps up in the pocket. He's going to take off with it, and he's getting the first down and a lot more. This is what he can do. Milroy might have scored. Did he step out?
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Nix, pump fake, takes off, into the clear, Bo Nix, there he goes, he won't be caught, he's done it again, 80 yards to Painters.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Wednesday afternoon. It is glorious where we are in Central Texas. Hope it is wherever you might be as well. Craig will join us here momentarily. Paul Catalina on the desk with me. I'm David Smoak, and this is 365 Sports. And we have the full array of talent behind us today in no particular order because egos can be bruised. Emery, Levi, Jack, Jacob, and Garrett. And I was trying to do that alphabetically, and I screwed up pretty quickly when I did that. But all 5 are behind the scenes that make us sound and look as good as we possibly can based on who we might be. College football tonight, Pablo. Yeah. SMU and UCF. SMU has players who are already saying we're not going to play anymore. We're going to retain our red shirt. We've seen Charlie Brewer last year for Utah did that, remember? Then went to Liberty, got hurt again. But UCF at home tonight against SMU.
Yeah, I think this will be interesting to see because these teams had to wait almost a full week. They had a bye. They had a bye, both of them this week for this game, so they had to wait all these days to do it. And I would probably lean towards SMU here because their lives have only been disrupted in that their game was delayed, as opposed to UCF, who, while Orlando did not get the brunt of Hurricane Ian, there's been a lot of flooding and power outages and different things that make your life a lot more difficult for a week, as we've seen, even if you don't have the full power of that behind you, or in front of you. I think SMU okay? Tonight. Yeah, I got a little choked up thinking about it, but I think SMU tonight. I like our guy Tanner Mordecai that we know really well, and I'd like him to bounce back a little bit from some of the early season stuff. They've had a tough schedule, but this is a conference game. I like SMU in this one.
Well, UCF is a favorite by 4 pretty much across the board. There's a couple of places where it's 2.5 points, but UCF and SMU in an American conference game, American Athletic Conference game. We will have Adam Rittenberg from ESPN on the show today in about 20 minutes. Olin Buchanan on A&M as they go into Tuscaloosa. And, of course, when this game was on the schedule after Jimbo and Nick Saban had their little spat, maybe this was supposed to be the thought of the week is, oh, okay, one of the two. But it's not. It's A&M trying to figure things out. And we have a stat. Here's an interesting note. This is Jimbo Fisher. This is from Jim Weber. Look at the numbers. This is based on his contract. Look at the numbers at the bottom. This is what it would cost A&M this year, $86 million, or $86 million. Next year, $77 million, all the way down to where it gets manageable where? After 2028, that's $30 million, and then $20 million, and then eventually nothing. But that's part of that extension they signed him to. That's the buyout, if in fact they were to let him go. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. Will it happen? I don't know. Okay.
They did this to keep him from going to LSU with Chris Woodward. That wasn't going to happen because Chris Woodward already had his sights set on Brian Kelly. And they did it because LSU's had all this strife post-Orgeron, and then pre-Orgeron, before they even hired him, they gave him, they wanted to make sure that Jimbo didn't go to LSU. They always thought that was a worry, but with the LSU job, given what he has at A&M, even though LSU's won more, as far as financial security, right then, A&M was a better job. Now, financially, but LSU's a better, let's not mince words. LSU's the better job. They win national titles there. But for Jimbo at that moment, but that was really never going to happen. It was always negotiating against yourself. And if you want to know who the greatest agent in all of sports is, and all due respect to Scott Boras, but people walk out of the room and won't deal with Scott Boras, so that's where he moves into B on baseball. They just won't deal with him. They won't sign his players. Jimmy Sexton has all these coaches, and he's the best. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, there's a decision he made back a few years ago I thought was a bad decision on trying to rebuild the image of a football coach that went south. That was his idea.
But look, he, at least in his career, like Ledger, has maybe made up for that one by getting a $90 million full contract buyout for Jimbo Fisher.
Yep. To me, you see NFL teams do this, and maybe on occasion Major League Baseball teams do this. The money that is in the NBA is hard for me to even comprehend. Hey, get what you can. I'm not arguing about the money that they make, but the renegotiation of contracts because of a job. Like Kansas, are they going to extend Lance Leipold? Remember, Baylor did that. The Matt Rule, remember, in 2019 had an extension. Everyone probably went. Mack Rhodes, I think they meant what they were doing. But Matt Rule was gone within a couple of months with that extension. Some of them are like, why? And a lot of times you're not doing it because the person has earned it. You're doing it because of fear that person might leave, which then means maybe they earned it because you don't want to lose them. They're going to leave eventually, whoever it is, if the money is right.
If somebody wants to leave, they're going to leave. One, and trying to protect. I mean, you're not protecting yourself on the buyout as much as you are if you can't fire them. What A&M has to do now is something that's going to be really hard to do because Jimbo Fisher has them financially over a barrel. Even as much money as they have, paying $90 million to someone is just stupid.
No, but they have it, though. But they have the money. It's not even coming out of anything A&M does. It's that they have boosters that are not. Now, they're not real happy about this right now.
But even deciding, okay, we're going to pay that $90 million out over 10 years and pay him $9 million a year, it's going to prevent somebody from giving money for something else that they need, right? Because they're spending money on this buyout.
$94 million in buyouts last year, remember?
Yeah.
And already nearly $50 million already, and we're not even into the first week, past the first week in October.
And so, I mean, this is why Jimbo Fisher's not in danger this year, and maybe not even next year because of the recruits he's brought in. He's done a very good job recruiting. What they have to do is sit down and convince him, if you want to compete with Saban, there's one thing that he does that you won't do. He changes with the times. Jimbo has not done that.
Yeah, no. And even if Saban barks about the up-tempo, he eventually became up-tempo. Well, it barks about the transfer portal, and yet they might have done better than anybody in the transfer portal.
Barking about all of that stuff is just so he can maybe give himself some time to figure it out.
And also sends messages to his fan base, and they're going to react to it. So SMU, UCF tonight. Also, we'll look into the Big 12 here in a moment, the weekend that is. There's 4 games. Bryce Young update. We'll have that for you. But let me say hi to those who said hi to us off the chat room. Scotty B, Paxton, Laura, Big 12 Sports and Smack, Katie Rader, Justin, GMAC, Daniel, Eric, S. Michael DeHart, GMAC, I already said you. I'll say you twice. Provo Cougar fan. Chris, good afternoon, Chris. Paxton, I think I may have said him already. Quirty, also there. Daniel, Wet Blanket, Troy, Paula, Cameron, all of you. And I can't get to all of you because Carl just jumped in. We appreciate all of you in the chat room as we start this show. Now, I got a text from Troy. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Oh, before we get to Bryce Young, I want to do the Tulane. This is my buddy Kevin at Baylor sent me this. He sends me some things that sometimes you've seen. Thank God that Aaron Judge hit his 60-second home run so we could all watch sports without interruption. Some of you disagree with that. That's fine.
Interrupt me in the next two games if he hits 11 more.
He's not even in the lineup today. Craig and Jennifer and Daniel are going to the Rangers game this afternoon, 3 o'clock. He just started. He's not even in the lineup because he hit a 60-second last night. Tulane was going to do something. You see this, these uniform reveals. And here, this has been a spinoff on others that as well, on the Aaron Judge cut-ins on information people are trying to release. They were going to reveal their uniforms, all right? Yeah.
He has done it. Case closed.
That's it. The best one I saw was the kick six, Alabama-Auburn, back when Alabama was trying to win the game with a field goal. It came up short. Auburn returned it for a touchdown. The kick six, it was shocking. And as soon as the kick was short and fielded in the end zone by Auburn, Davis, I think it was, to run it back, as soon as he crossed the goal line on his own goal line, they cut away to the Aaron Judge home run. And then at the end, their celebration, Saban's running across the field to shake the hands of, was it Malzahn? I don't know who it might have been. And like you missed the whole play because of the cut-in.
I have this just a really sincere hope because I'm very curious now to how they will react to it. Now that 62 is the record, so now we have to hope somebody hits 63, but not for the Yankees and not for the Red Sox and not for a big marquee team.
Cubs.
No, I mean, it has to be in the American League because it's the American League record, right? So it has to be in the American League. So I really hope that a Tampa Bay Ray, a Seattle Mariner, or
a Texas
Ranger hits 63 home runs to see them cut in every 5 seconds or every at bat on a Saturday because it's important. Or is it important just because? And look, it is the Yankees, just like it is the Cowboys. I don't.
So if there was a week left and he has 62, we're going to cut in every time he was approaching 73? Or only when he got to 71 or 2?
Yeah. No, he's got to be at 63 now, unless he hits one.
Unless he comes in off the bench today in a pinch hitting role. Craig has joined us on the set. Here's a Bryce Young. Welcome, Craig. Bryce Young doing things in practice, according to head coach Nick Saban. He, of course, was out near in the second half of that game with Arkansas, and it got dicey, and then they made plays. Alabama did, especially with their running game. No decision is going to be made until he decides, and we decide from a medical standpoint. You expected him to say that whether he can go out there and functionally do his job. Of course, he exited that game actually in the second quarter in the win against Arkansas. They were up at the time, I think, 28-0. Craig, how you doing?
Doing well.
Craig got his car fixed. Great to have that. Now you can relax and have that the rest of, hopefully, for quite some time. Let's see. There was one other note to get to in this. We did Tulane, shading Major League Baseball, Bryce Young, Jimbo's buyout, and also tonight SMU and UCF. All right, let's go back to the Jimbo buyout. Craig, we were discussing this right before you got here, and this is not any breaking news here, but this came out. Jim Weber, when Jimbo Fisher, because Alabama and Texas A&M, Olin Buchanan will join us on that game today, that the buyout figures, when you always, he's got to go. The numbers are staggering, as you could imagine, with the guarantee and then the extension. Really doesn't get to a point where it's manageable, and it depends on manageable, $20 million, but not until 2029.
Yeah, I mean, this was, not I think all that's shocking to people who paid attention when this was all going down as far as the investment that Texas A&M made. Maybe you didn't know exact buyout figures, but you knew that they were basically giving Jimbo the contract of a lifetime. And they were sacrificing any bit of leverage they had for this guy who they just felt like was just the answer to, what Kevin Sumlin couldn't do and what really no one else has done in modern-day history for A&M with the one title in 39, not the one that they put up later on. The one they actually won was, 39?
Yeah.
So outside of that, they thought, here's the guy. This is the missing piece for us to be SEC divisional champions and to win the West and to win SEC titles and to win national titles. And maybe one day he will be. Certainly we'll have more time to do that because, they're not paying that buyout right now. That's ridiculous. And so greatest contract he could have ever signed. They have, a lot of money, but they don't have, $25 million buyout money. I mean, I don't think many places do where you can spend that and not feel that. And then the other thing is, who would you even go get at that point? What kind of contract are you signing somebody up to next? An infinity buyout? I mean, that's the position they put themselves in. They went all in on Jimbo. I mean, that was the move, and did what they had to do to get him signed on. And that buyout and that contract's part of what lured him from Tallahassee ultimately. But they're where they are, and they're not going anywhere for a while. And hopefully for them, it works out, and it still could. But right now, it's kind of hard to see that as the best investment of all time.
Jimbo has to adapt, and that's what he has not done, and that's why they're in the offensive predicament that they're in right now. The talent, based on the recruiting numbers, should not be an issue, but it's the adaptability of making sure that talent is in the best system it can to win, and that's a hard thing to do for anybody, especially not even talking about somebody who is as set in his ways as Jimbo Fisher is. Think about when you go to the dentist, and he tells you that you need to brush differently. How long does it take you to really do that forever? Maybe 3 or 4 trips to the dentist. This may be A&M's first trip to the dentist with Jimbo Fisher. This might be the first time they've actually even broached the subject of, you might need to do this differently.
Well, I've discussed how I didn't always pay attention. I mean, brushing is one thing, but also taking care of your dental work. That's why I've had the implants and the crowns and spent a lot of money doing it too.
But if it's that hard for, a run-of-the-mill thing in your life, someone who's done this professionally for a long time and had a ton of success. That's part of the problem with Jimbo. It's the reason you hired him, but part of the problem in trying to get him to change and adapt is he's got a lot of skins on the wall when it comes to developing quarterbacks and having successful offenses. What you have to make him see is it's been a little bit since that's really happened, but most of the time people don't see that because he's in the forest, right? He can't look outside of it. He's just seeing look, I've got these guys, all were big studs. You don't know as much as I know.
We may not, but man, I mean, he can be in the forest all he wants to. All it takes is watching that offense on Saturdays to see that there's a major problem. It doesn't take, a coaching career to figure out that offense stinks. I mean, I don't know how that really changes all that quickly because what are you going to do? I mean, you go hand the keys to somebody else and they're just going to start the engine and it's firing in all cylinders. I mean, my thing going into the season was kind of like, who do they even really have? That's you had A-Chain obviously, but I just felt like for the team that we hear recruiting all the time about, maybe it's just that next wave. The Evan Stewarts and them just need to grow up a little bit. But, man, was Isaiah Spiller that big of a deal to your offense? That big of a deal to where it's you can't even – I don't know. It's problematic right now in Aggie land. But, Jimbo's got time. He's not going anywhere. I mean, you show those buyout numbers. I'm glad you show those just so we can, negate the conversation that inevitably somebody's having somewhere about, when they're going to fire him. It's look at those numbers. Not anytime soon. And look, the firing him would have to be admitting that you made a massive blunder as well in doing this in the first place and making the investment that you did. So it is what it is. They're just going to have to get better somehow or another.
And I don't care how much money you have. Yeah, I mean, there's some that writing a check for $10 million is like some of us writing a check for $100. Eventually, good God. I mean, great for Jimbo, by the way. And as you mentioned, Jimmy Sexton, his agent, on top of that. So a lot of you have discussed it. Again, he has these classes, but to win national championships, when was the last time that a team won a national title, and it might have been very recent, When was the last time a team won a national championship? And Stetson Bennett's the most recent. So he might be the answer, although he's having a nice year. When was the last time somebody won a FBS national championship with a bus driver at quarterback? Stetson Bennett and anyone before him, and I don't know if that's fair to Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, I don't know, like, really how you would classify bus driver. I mean, like, I think of bus driver, I think, like, Matt Flynn. That was 20-something years ago.
Matt Flynn won a national
championship. That was like 2003.
Where do you throw Josh?
Between then and now, though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of the 20-something quarterbacks that have won titles.
Alabama, how about McCarron? How about McElroy? How about, some of those guys?
Jacob Coker.
And I bring that up because you can have all these 5 and 4 stars or whatever, but you eventually need to hit on somebody who's dynamic at quarterback too. You can win without them if you have enough of the other stuff. But that means you have to be almost not flawless, but pretty perfect across all the other parts of what you do on offense and also defense. Mike Gaines, the Ohio State quarterback, Cardale Jones, third quarterback.
Yeah,
Cardale Jones after. They had all the issues at quarterback with who's a kid from Texas,
J.T. Barrett, Braxton Miller.
And then Braxton Miller. And then, of course, Cardale Jones comes in and does a remarkable job leading them to 2014 and the national championship. Also, a bus driver, Philadelphia Eagles once had a bartender as a place kicker.
Yeah, but okay, you're driving the bus. What kind of bus you driving?
Yeah. That was what I said.
Yeah,
you have to have – you can't just drive the bus unless you have elite – Ferraris and Lamborghinis also around you.
Yeah, so that goes back to where did all the money go? Because they don't have any of those. I mean, one of them got hurt and the other guy's still out there. But outside of that, they bought 2 cars with all that, or did they spend all on defense?
They have a bunch of their. You would think a lot of their money might be going. I think one of the things about A&M that's been frustrating is, yes, whatever you want to say about the offense, is the offensive line can't take over a game. You don't see them taking over a game. They have some weapons. Some of those guys are out. Some of them are hurt. But they don't have the ability, you would think, when you have a great defense, complementary is what you want to do by pounding the football with the running backs you have, whether you have Spiller back or not. And they really haven't done that much. Well, in fact, I don't even know what their personality is on offense.
They don't have one.
Yeah, they don't have one. And but look, to Craig's point, I can go through the last 20 years taking out Heisman Trophy winners, who some of whom wind up being bus drivers, Chris Winkie and Jason White, But, there are guys in there that won that thing that maybe were not great. But Josh Heupel was, kind of a bus driver if you think about it. Ken Dorsey, bus driver. Yep. He was the worst, and great football mind, all these things about Ken Dorsey. He was the worst player on that team, and he was a Heisman Trophy finalist. Maybe because they weren't looking in the right spot, but that was 0-1 Miami.
Leinart was more than that.
But 2002, Craig Krenzel at Ohio State. Yep. And then you get into Matt Mock and Matt Flynn at LSU won titles. Chris Leak was actually the quarterback in 2006 when Florida won the first one under Urban Meyer. He was certainly that. Then, of course, Tebow was much more than that. And then you get into the Cam Newtons and stuff and some of the Alabama guys. But, yeah, there's been plenty of teams that have won with guys.
So, in other words, there are no excuses. Go win games no matter what.
Yeah, what are we getting to here? It's it's A&M.
It's a discussion. It's a discussion about why, when A&M has all these toys, but why are they not winning?
Yeah, so like I was saying, is what is the discussion here? They have all of the toys, so why is it not happening? I don't know. That's a conversation for, I don't know, maybe the guy in charge of the whole program to kind of look in the mirror. You're sitting here talking about him being in the forest and all this stuff. Okay, well, every tree around here is on fire, and everybody outside with water buckets is talking about it, and you're just in this forest blind to it all. I just can't imagine that he's sitting there that insulated. So, yeah, I don't know what the answer is. They've went and got recruiting classes. They've got all these great players, apparently. They've got more money than God. I don't know. I think if anybody knew the answer to really what their issues were, you would hope that it would be Jimbo Fisher, but clearly, as of right now, it's not. And, it's not quite what it was thought to be.
Adam Rittenberg, ESPN.com. We'll discuss that with him. Also, of course, looking back at Baylor and Oklahoma State last weekend in Waco. He covers all of college football, does a great job with it. He will join us next on 365 Sports. At one point, I used to weigh 282.5 pounds. back in 2013. I weighed 282.5 pounds. Now I'm in that 190 to 195 bubble. That's where I am. And what happened is I started working out. I learned how to get in shape, how to become fit. I learned what it was like to stay in shape. I learned that at one point I couldn't run around the parking lot at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, and now I run quite a bit every single week, although not quite as much. If you want to put yourself, not lose weight, but get fit. That's more important. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco can do that. They have personal trainers in Christy London and Randall Corley. They have every piece of equipment you'd ever want, from treadmills to free weights to Cybex machines. An amazing facility. Memberships available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
During Jeep Adventure Days, Allen Samuels in Waco is celebrating with an incredible lineup of 2022 models like the Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4xe. These vehicles bring power to plow through any obstacles or the smooth, peaceful ride you'd expect from a Jeep. Jeep SUVs are also known for their design and technology. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a third row. Come see what Allen Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select Choice and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikem 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Senior writer covering college football for ESPN, Adam Rittenberg, joins us on 365 Sports with Paul, Craig, and David. And here we go on this Wednesday afternoon. Adam, thank you very much for your time. I know Saturday you were here in Waco for Oklahoma State and Baylor. I was saying this during the break. It seems to me, and of course winning doesn't hurt, but do you kind of get the impression that Mike Gundy is about as calm and collective and in a good place right now as you've seen him in a while?
I think he is. I was with him the previous Monday, and I think he's got a team that he knows isn't perfect, but has a lot of experience in key areas, most notably as quarterback. He used the word mastered to describe how Spencer Sanders is with the offense, and brought up that he's kind of at that level that Mason Rudolph was at the end of his career, and Brandon Weeden was at the end of his career, and he's obviously got some talent at receiver as the Baylor fans were able to see during that game. They're also very good on the defensive line. But in the same breath, what I like about the thing about Mike is he's at this point in his career, and it's refreshing when a coach is completely comfortable with who he is and isn't going to be somebody that he's not or try to pretend to be something else. So I think he's also understanding that the Big 12 is really competitive and there really aren't any terrible teams. And he told me he fully believes there's going to be at least 1 2-loss team in the Big 12 championship game, because this league is going to beat each other up a lot, because there's a lot of really, really good teams, but maybe no elite team, although Oklahoma State is trying to be that.
Do you think they are built enough to do that, given that they've had some losses? Their team that was maybe elite as far as talent goes was last year, and this one has a little less experience.
It does. And in talking to defensive coordinator Derek Mason, I think he's still quite concerned about where they are in the secondary. They don't have a lot of guys they can really rely on at this point, but they're so deep up front. I mean, he told me they can play 12 linemen, and a number of those linemen are going to be in the NFL in a few years. So if they can lean on their front to a point where they can develop a little bit more experience and reliability in the back end to go against some of the good quarterbacks that they're going to face the rest of the way, I think they'll feel pretty good, because their own guy is going to give them chances. I mean, I think Sanders is very comfortable in big games, and they're not great at running back, but they're good enough, and they look to be pretty strong at receiver. That group has really jumped out to me so far this year.
Adam, what were your impressions of Baylor? Obviously tough to lose at home. Already their second loss now at this point, but the first in Big 12 play. I know Dave Aranda lamented some of the mistakes in the postgame, and they kind of seem to have an idea of where they erred. But what were your thoughts on seeing the Bears up close?
It was just a young team. I think it's a team that is missing some of the key guys that they had last year. I mean, I can't tell you how many coaches have glowed about Jalen Petrie. I mean, I've had a number of veteran coaches tell me he was the best college player they ever saw. And, these are guys that have been around for decades in some cases. And so that, you're not just going to replace that easily. And obviously Terrell Bernard was another outstanding player for Baylor. I think teams look at their defense and they worry certainly about 62 in the middle of the line, but there's not that many other guys that really scare them from a preparation standpoint. So they found ways. I think teams are going to find ways to attack this defense until it kind of matures a little bit. And that's what really puts more impetus on Baylor to start faster than it did against Oklahoma State. I thought they moved the ball decently in that first half, but just came out with 3 points, and you're down, 19-3. That's a hard position to be in against anyone, especially a team that's as talented as Oak State. So they're going to have to find ways to start faster. They've got good coaches on this team. I think they've a good offensive line. I really like the young running back who kind of carried the load for them and did some good things. But again, this is not the Baylor defense that we saw last season. It just isn't.
Adam, the coaching change is already off and running. With Scott Frost was the first one among others, and now Paul Chryst, despite what is really almost a spectacular record, but they're losing ground. Is this because there's so much money you can just fire coaches and not worry so much about the buyouts?
Well, absolutely, it's part of it. Is that money doesn't seem to be an obstacle at all for these teams. I mean, Nebraska fired Scott Frost. They could have waited 3 weeks and saved $7.5 million. So whenever these ADs talk about, well, I don't know if we can do anything financially. They're not telling the truth unless they're in a league where they're not getting a whole lot of media dollars. So it just shows the nature of the sport. And as the money kept going up and up and up and up, this is something that you could probably see coming. The fact that we're sitting here on October 5th with 5 Power 5 openings, I don't think that was something I expected, but this certainly could become the norm, especially when you have coaches that essentially go into the season, almost like it would be surprising if they kept their job. I mean, Scott Frost, it was like if he had kept his job for 23, it would be a surprise. Jeff Collins, everyone thought he'd be fired with that schedule, and it's like he didn't even have a chance. Same with Herm Edwards. No one thought Herm Edwards was going to be back, and so I guess the hesitancy to make the changes maybe on the year before is the only surprise here. But the fact that those guys are no longer in their jobs is really not a surprise.
Adam, who do you expect to be next? If we're having this conversation on October 12th or 19th, who do you expect to be the next couple guys?
Right. So there were 4 coaches entering the season that were on the hottest of seats. 3 of them have already been fired in Scott Frost, Jeff Collins, and Herm Edwards. The 4th was Brian Harsin. And, a lot of us were certainly paying attention on Sunday before the Paul Chryst news broke, whether there'd be any news out of Auburn after they blew that 17-0 lead and were outscored 21-0 the rest of the way by LSU. They obviously did not do anything yet, but I think there's an expectation if they were to lose this weekend to Georgia, especially if it's ugly, going into a bye week, that Auburn would probably make a change. And now they have an interim athletic director who I'm told has a really good chance it's a permanent job, and so I don't think they would hesitate to make a change in that case. So I think Brian Harsin's in that category. I think Scott Satterfield at Louisville is in that category. They've had a really poor start to the season. They've lost to both Syracuse and Boston College on the road. Boston College hasn't been playing well at all, and Louisville lost to them. I think if they were to lose to Virginia, who's maybe struggling even more so than BC this weekend, there's a pretty good chance that there'll be a change there.
Adam, on Auburn, it's an SEC job, so there'll be plenty of people lined up. But will it be one of those jobs that they might not be able to get their first choice because the behind the scenes is a little wackadoodle there?
Well, I think any coach and his representation would have to investigate like what Auburn is. And I think it's impossible for any coach to unite the power people at Auburn. I think the best you can hope for is that most of them are in your corner. But again, it is an SEC job. It's a job where you can recruit. You have access to Atlanta, only an hour and a half away. And say what you want about Auburn. They've won a national championship and they played for another in the last 12, 13 years. And they've also had some success against Alabama. Gus Malzahn beat Nick Saban a couple of times. And so I think, whether it's a guy like Lane Kiffin or Hugh Freeze or maybe Deion Sanders, I think your coaches are going to be interested in at least discussing that. But if they, the big word in college athletics, as you guys know, from a coaching perspective, is alignment. I think Baylor's got really good alignment right now. Mike Gundy has really good alignment at Oklahoma State after maybe not having that with some previous administrators. I don't think anyone can look at the Auburn situation and say, oh, there's great alignment here. I'm going to get everything that I want and we're all going to be on the same page. You have to understand that coming in the door, and that might turn off some of these coaching candidates. But I think there's enough really good coaches that still would be interested in the Auburn job.
Adam, how often are you hearing Lance Leipold's name brought up just in terms of these coaching jobs? And I know there's some that make more sense than others, but it just seems like something Kansas is not going to be able to avoid no matter how hard they try is him being involved in rumors.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of factors here. I mean, Lance is an older coach. If Lance were 42 and he was just kind of starting out with his first Power 5 job, he might be less inclined to make a move. But the fact is, there's 2 jobs. I mean, if you just came up with the 2 jobs that Lance was maybe best suited for after Kansas, it might be Wisconsin and Nebraska. I mean, the guy's from Wisconsin. He won a bunch of national championships in Division III in the state. He worked at the University of Wisconsin. I mean, that is a dream job for a guy like Lance Leipold. And then he spent, I think it was 13 years in the state of Nebraska, including several on the Nebraska coaching staff. He's also at Nebraska Omaha. So those 2 jobs are probably at the top of his list. And Lance is a realist. He knows he's older. He knows he's probably only got one major move left. after the great work he's done at Kansas. I'm just glad that we're talking about the guy. This is someone who, I cover the coaching industry pretty closely. I was excited about Lance Leipold years ago because you just saw what he did at Wisconsin Whitewater, and if he ever got a chance in the FBS, it would just be fascinating. And he's gotten that chance, and he's made the most of it, and now he's in the position to jump to a really major job.
I don't know who wrote the article, Adam, but it was out maybe yesterday about Lance Leipold and where he was, and obviously Chris Kleiman, what he did at North Dakota State, among others who have won at the non-FBS level or even FCS level, and how when they've been given the chance, they've done well. I know people want to make a big splash or whatever, but you think their success, Leipold and also Kleiman, among others, might get ADs to look a little deeper at the lower division levels of college football?
I hope so, because I've talked to several ADs about this early dismissal deal, and they all talk about how this is such an important decision, and you need to take your time, and you need to have an awareness of the market, and you need to have substantial conversations instead of trying to rush it at the end of November. Well, if that's the case, you need to do your research. You need to look at the FCS. You need to look at some of these lower divisions, because there's been a lot of really good coaches that have come out of those ranks. Certainly Lance and Chris are two of them. Jim Tressel, came from the FCS to Ohio State and had a great run there. So you should be paying attention to who's doing well at those schools. Jay Hill's a good example at Weber State. I thought he'd have a shot by now in the FBS, and maybe he'll get one relatively soon. But there's definitely a group of coaches that if you take the time and you really delve into who they are and what they've done, they are certainly worth considering, and in many cases hiring.
Well, do you think that the reason they maybe don't is just they haven't done big time recruiting, so places are worried about that? Because systems, can adapt and adjust, but going out and having those recruiting contacts is maybe a little bit of a different thing. Yeah,
it's certainly a factor, but they can also hire assistants that have those ties. And I do think the player development team, you're talking about Kansas here. Like, Kansas isn't going to win through recruiting. They're going to win through player development. I mean, there's a great piece last week in the LA Times about their quarterback and how nobody wanted him, basically, until Kansas got on him. So it's about identifying talent and developing that talent, and then having schemes that can really maximize the skills. A lot of these schools that have fired coaches, there's a reason that they fired coaches, because they're challenging jobs. Colorado's gone through a lot of coaches lately. Georgia Tech is a challenging job. And so, there obviously are a number of candidates already in the FBS. I mean, another one, Jamie Chadwell at Coastal Carolina, certainly having success in the FBS, but he came up through the Division IIs, and he was in the FCS. He's never stepped foot on a Power 5 campus as an employee. So he's somebody who I think will get one of these opportunities very soon. He's 27-3, guys, since the start of the 2020 season. So I just think I think your point is understood and well taken, but I think there's too many pros for those guys in those lower divisions to outweigh maybe a lack of high level recruiting experience.
Adam, with now how things are with realignment, it doesn't mean it's down. It's just simmering, because who knows what might happen. You always see something flare up. Is it nice, even though there could be anything at any moment, is it nice that we're mainly now talking about the football season, in your opinion?
Yeah, it is. I just laugh because I would rather realignment happen now.
Yes.
Because when it did happen, I was on the third hole of golf course in California trying to have a vacation, and I get texts about UCLA and USC leaving. And I know, like, okay, this day and this week is ruined. So yeah, do it now. Like, do it while we're all working, instead of in the worst possible time in the summer. So no, I mean, I'm joking, but it certainly is nice to talk about games. And even with NIL, I think there was a fear that oh my God, NIL is going to be everything. It's all we talk about in college sports. It's not. It's part of the game. So is coaching. So is quarterback play. So are schemes on both sides of the ball. So are the games. And obviously, being at Baylor last week was a great experience. I hadn't been on to a game there in a number of years, and like, that's what it's all about. And so, yes, there will be more realignment. We're going to discuss it, but I think the games and the reasons that we all really enjoy the sport are always going to be front and center as well.
Adam, thank you, sir, for your time. Appreciate it. Adam Rittenberg, senior writer, ESPN, covers college football, with us on 365 Sports. We will hear from Olin Buchanan, Texas A&M, in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. That's next. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on right now at Richard Carr. They are the people that you can count on for the life of your car, for great service and for great options, great opportunity to get into a vehicle today, as supply chain issues are not quite over just yet, but they have loosened up enough to where they've got some new cars and trucks on the lot, and they want you to get on over to experience them for yourself. Right now, trucks and SUVs, they've got Sierras, Acadias, Terrains, all from the GMC line, all 2022s. They have arrived and are waiting for you to test drive today. They've got XT4 and XT5 SUVs from Cadillac, also available for a test drive. So inventory already going fast. Get there now for the best selection. And when it comes to some of those cars and trucks in particular, for example, the GMC Sierra, what you get with that vehicle, best-in-class towing, strong steel bed, multi-pro tailgate, advanced collision avoidance, luxurious interior that includes massive touchscreens, 14 camera views, premium comfort. So again, trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. Get to the dealership and drive your next truck today. And if the exact truck or SUV you're looking for is not on the lot, get on their inbound vehicle list. You basically cut in line for trucks that are in production but not quite in stock, or let them help you design the exact truck or SUV you want, and Richard Carr will have GMC prioritize it for you. So get on over to the dealership. For 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr, a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs, run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Make a winning drive to Genco and refinance your vehicle. Every loan can skip monthly payments for 90 days with rates as low as 3.75% APR for 48 months. Right now is the time to make a play. At Genco, we save you money by helping you pay less for your car. Every loan scores no payments for 90 days. Then have a chance to win 3 more months of no payments. Apply online today for an additional discount of 0.15% off our already low rates. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online, pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sikem Bears.
This is Sikem 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikem 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We will check in with Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. They're playing Alabama this week, and of course A&M in need of something after what has been a tough start. We discussed that quite a bit. Cameron Caulfield will join us, former Baylor offensive lineman in our studio. He'll join us today just after 4 o'clock as he'll discuss what he has seen with Baylor. He went up and saw North Texas and his old offensive line coach, Randy Clements, on that staff with Phil Bennett and company. We're now joined by Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com, Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Boy, a lot of things have changed since what we thought this might be a massive game for who knows. Where is everything right now this week in College Station, Olin?
Obviously it's not as big a game for the reasons we thought it might be a couple months ago. I think that here they're still saying that they're trying to iron out some wrinkles and execute better, and they feel like once they get to a point where they're executing their plays, they say they're very close, it's coming. But we've been hearing that for several weeks now, that they're just leaving plays on the field. And they did that last week, but, we're at the midway point. And you get to the at some point, you got to stop saying that you're getting close and start saying that you are executing. Otherwise, isn't that who you are? I think that we've all heard the difference between a good team and a bad team. It's the good teams make plays to win, and bad teams find ways to lose. And right now, we don't know which one A&M is, but we're certainly trending toward the bad team.
Olin, the last time we had you on, I asked you if you thought that Jimbo would ever relinquish being the play caller on this team. And after you had a good laugh, you said no. Would he ever, if he's not going to do that, especially given how he's moved the offensive staff around and what their responsibilities are, would he ever adjust his scheme to maybe simplify it and modernize it?
It's funny. I asked him after the game against Mississippi State if he's lost any faith in that scheme, and he says, no, the scheme is not the problem. We're just not executing. Well, can't every coach say that? Hey, if you execute, every play is probably going to be successful for everybody. He has, however, in recent weeks, seemed to reconsider some things. For instance, he was asked if he would consider getting an offensive coordinator and giving up the plays and the play calling, and he did say that they would evaluate everything at the end of the year, and that he would consider that. So I think just about everybody, it seems like, can see that the A&M offense is not it's not productive. That the talent is better than the scheme, and supposedly, he keeps saying, well, it might be one player that's making this mistake that messes everything up. Well, maybe they need to come to a more forgiving scheme where, you see other programs find guys open and maybe not everything has to be perfect. So I think maybe there's a certain realization that he's coming to. But if he does make a change, it won't be, I'm sure, until the off season, and even then, I think I have to see it to believe it.
Olin, we all have expectations, especially ones that build up throughout the offseason. Everybody gets new players and new coaches and new this and new that. Everybody gets this new spark. But for A&M, this is the thing that year after year has been building, and Jimbo and the big contract and all that. How surprised are you by where they are right now?
Oh, I'm surprised. I said before the season started in year 5, after going 8-4 last year with a backup quarterback and 2 freshmen in the offensive line, that anything less than 10 wins would be a disappointment. I think there's, mathematically they're still on pace for 10 wins, but I think we can all agree that looks very unlikely. Now, the second half of the season, the schedule is less challenging, but quite frankly, A&M has been so inconsistent. I don't know, with the exception of the game against UMass and maybe at Auburn, even though you have to go there, that I would look at a game and say, all right, they're going to win this one. There's no game that you look at that, again, other than UMass, where you say, all right, you can just circle it down as a win. I think A&M is a week-to-week team. And, again, we keep hearing from Jimbo and even some of the players that when they look at the game videos, that they can see where there was a breakdown here, otherwise it would have been a huge play. There was a breakdown here, otherwise it would have been a huge play. And a lot of that. But what's consistent is they're consistently not making that. They're consistently having that breakdown that's preventing big plays. It's not just the offensive line. Evan Stewart dropped a touchdown pass last week. Devon Achane, who's usually very reliable, fumbled at the 4-yard line. They had a defensive player would have had a pick six. He just dropped it as bad as you can drop one. They had a field goal block and went the other way for a touchdown. So there's all kinds of issues right now. And, maybe they will be able to iron out some of these wrinkles. But, again, it's the time for promising that it's coming, that they're going to put it together, is past. It's time to either solve some of these problems or just quit talking about it, because it's starting to sound like empty promises.
Olin, we went over a history of a lot of teams that have won national championships, and once we started, it completely blew a hole into what I was talking about, how you need elite quarterbacks, and you don't. You can have them with a lot of names that have won national titles because everyone around them is so good. Is there any chance that A&M just misdiagnosed the quarterbacks that they recruited and who they have?
Yeah, there's absolutely a chance. I think they thought Haynes King was going to be better, and maybe someday he will. But he's had, he just had to be. He had to be replaced because he wasn't playing well. He looked unsure. We don't know about Connor Wigman. They brought in, Zach Calzada. Obviously, wasn't the answer, even though he wasn't a highly ranked quarterback. I think that was a guy that there were some other guys that they wanted that they didn't get, but there has been some guys that I think A&M might have had a good chance at, and they didn't recruit as hard. And one of them they might face this week against Alabama if Jalen Milroe starts.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very fair. Now, when he inherited Kellen Mond, and that was the best guy he had, and I think the big disappointment so far was that they really felt like Haynes King could be special, and that just hasn't been the case at this point.
Now, Jimbo will tell you he's ready to go with Connor Wigman. He said he feels good about him playing if he had to. But is that coach speak? Is that optimism, or would there be a point where he says, "What the heck? Let's see what he's got"?
Well, I have to believe right now, based on everything I've seen, that it's coach speak. I mean, up until this year, I felt like everything Jimbo had told us was proved to be pretty accurate, that he was forthcoming and honest with opinion. And I'm not saying he's lying things when he tells us now. I'm just wondering how much his coach speaks. We were keep hearing like certain players and how good they looked in practice and how good they looked in in the spring and everything, and yet it hadn't translated on the field. I'm not going to mention the guy, but I know there's one guy that he talked about all off season, just raved, and he's a defensive player and he has minimal tackles. He's had a minimal impact. There's some other places where they was, hey, the offensive line is looking so good and things like that, and quite frankly, it just hasn't been very good this year. I think some of the guys who started last year have taken a step back, as a matter of fact. So I just think the time for talk at A&M is long past, and it's time to actually, put up or shut up kind of situation.
Olin, I guess if it's not all negative, if there were some positives to throw out there that you've seen so far, I mean, what would some of those be?
Well, first of all, Devon Achane is, the guy's really, really good.
Yeah.
I almost feel sorry for him that he's not getting more help. We thought that that A&M would have a passing game to complement him and take some of the pressure off, and it really hasn't been there consistently. Now, they lost Anaya Smith for the year, which a huge setback. But Moose Muhammad came in last week and played really well. Had 6 catches for about 120 yards. We've been waiting on him for 3 years, so maybe that was a breakout performance for him, and that he's going to be able to be a good player. Evan Stewart's been up and down. Unfortunately, last week he was down. But other than that, offensively, there's not a whole lot else. Defensively, the linebacker play has been inconsistent at best. There's been little to no pass rush. I think the secondary is pretty good if they've got their starters in, but I think some of the depth has been disappointing when they've had to go to some of the other guys who've seen some big plays. So coming into the season, you felt on paper that A&M had a chance to have a really good year if some of the question marks were answered, and none of them really have been answered.
Olin, thank you very much. A&M and Alabama at Tuscaloosa coming up this week. And thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Olin Buchanan from TexAgs.com, 365 Sports. And, yeah, they I put up or shut up. Stop talking and do it. Show it on the field. And whether the schedule lightens up or not remains to be seen based on if you yourself get any better.
Well, it doesn't this weekend, that's for sure.
No, for sure. When we come back, he was a part of the staple of the great offensive lineman they had under the Randy Clements tenure as offensive line under Art Browse at Baylor. Cameron Caulfield, his thoughts about this Baylor team, and also just some memories. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, just put up a note on Twitter. If you need tailgate product, tri-tip, brisket, sausage links, chicken wings, burgers, you got it. Charcoal, they have that as well. Marinades and seasonings, they have that as well.
BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK
All family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
In the market for a quality metal building?
Aging Room, Cuatro, Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley, Don Humanor, in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Welcome back to Sikem 365 Radio.
Toss to Reese, hit in the end zone, and he is going down. Kendall Daniels was in there first, and it's a safety for the Cowboys.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We are in studio. We always love it when we have a guest that can join us in studio. We played at Friendswood High School, played at Baylor during the run when they made it to get back into bowl business and eventually make it even better towards Baylor winning Big 12 championships. He's been retired from football for a while, and we're now joined by Cameron Caulfield, former Baylor offensive lineman, in studio. And welcome. So tell everybody what you're doing, because you got a pretty unique business you're involved with.
Very unique, yeah. Formerly of Baylor Scott and White at Hillcrest and Southwest Sports Medicine and those guys. Now I am working remote here in Waco. Our business makes wireless cameras that are used in long-range shooting, training, hunting, indoor gun ranges, all sorts of training elements of military, recreation, government, DOD, all that fun stuff.
Well, that's quite a change there, Cameron.
As I told my wife, it couldn't have been more different. I went from going to the same building, the same commute every day for 9 years to, waking up, at 7 and wearing gym shorts if I wanted to and walking upstairs and, turning on, you got to put a collared shirt on though when you're on FaceTime all the time, but you can wear gym shorts if you want.
You just hang one in the office there?
I usually keep it right there behind me if I need to, yeah. Yeah.
But you were an outdoorsman. So this is kind of it was in your recreational wheelhouse anyway.
It was something that I had been doing all along. Since its inception in 2013, I'd been doing it on weekends and just kind of whenever I could, pro staff with, if you will. So it had finally grown to a size large enough that it had sustained. And I had been worn out from the pandemic, and healthcare at that time was a beatdown, if you can imagine. And I was ready for something fresh, something new.
All right, well, you played offensive line under Randy Clements. Coach Browse is the head coach at Baylor, and you guys really set the tone for the last 12 years or so, even with a couple of ups and downs along the way. But what do you think of – we saw what Baylor's offensive line was able to do last year, and Abram Smith allowed them to be that way as well. But the wide zone, and now who they are, they're okay. They've been in a couple of street fights. They've lost them. But there still seems to be that maybe there's something missing. Maybe it's the power back. I don't know. But what do you see when you watch them now?
Well, you and I have talked about this for years, and I will say that the last 2 years, the technique has been there. Like, they're being coached well. You and I had conversations about like what are they trying to do, we're past that. But no, I think they returned a lot of guys. I know that the stat, I can't remember the numbers that they put on the last game, but most of the guys on that line, Connor Galvin's been there for what seems like 100 years. But yeah, they're playing well. I don't think they have that. They just don't have that back that's going to hit someone in the mouth. They've got, speed everywhere. It looks like that. I don't want to say rebuilding year, but it's, a team trying to figure out who they are after an amazing run last year.
You guys had a couple different backs that were, as far as hit somebody in the mouth. Jay Finley hit somebody in the mouth. Ganaway, I don't think he knew any other way. But like you had those guys. Do you block different for different guys?
Well, I don't.
Or do you have to be aware?
Yeah, I don't think you block different, but I think the scheme was a little different.
Yeah.
We ran the zone exceptionally well, and we never really got out over our skis. We didn't do a bunch of pitches and outside stuff. We kind of knew where our sweet spot was, and it was in between the tackles. And we didn't block different, but we knew what we would get. Ganaway was not going to take it 80. But he could roll and get you a first down. Lake was there at the end of my career, and he was a guy that, could get you -2 or could get you 80. There wasn't really an in-between. But no, it didn't really block differently. I think we ran the zone well, and we ran the play action even better off of that.
How much does just losing even one guy, how much of a difference can that make? Because I'm thinking of Xavier Newman, who was there for a long time, and he's the only non-returning starter. I know Khalil Keith's hurt right now, and he was a difference maker as well. But even returning 4 of 5 starters.
But until you, come in sync, it's challenging, yeah.
Eric Mateos is obviously very good at what he does at Brigham Young and what he's done at Baylor. He seems to also have guys that are somewhat flexible in where they can play. Randy Clements would take a guard and he'd become a center. Take a tackle, become a guard, or a guard to a tackle. Was he one of the best you saw at fitting what you needed and finding the best in what the offensive lineman he had?
Yeah, it seemed like he was always looking for a center. Once J.D. Walton left, it was kind of like, okay, well, now everyone's now a center until you fail. But, yeah, it was like Ivory Wade, who, ended up at center at the end of my career in 2012. He was a, 3-year starter at right tackle. We're like, yeah, we'll just throw you at center. But, yeah, it was something that people ask me all the time, like, what position do you play? And I have to say O-line, because I was a right guard, I was a left guard. Sometimes I would switch in the same series. He kind of found his guys that could do – he didn't want to ask you to do too much. So I was able to kind of flip it in my mind pretty easily. And so I was able to kind of be that versatile guy that could go back and forth. But, yeah, he had guys that were better at right, better at left, dominant legs, flexibilities, and stuff like that. Luckily, I was never flexible enough to play center. I think Jake Jackson probably sent one in the front row of the spring game one time just so he didn't have to play center. You can't play center. And if you can't snap.
He did what?
Yeah, he might have chunked one 8 yards over the quarterback's head.
On purpose.
Yeah, it wasn't not on purpose. But he didn't play center after that.
We're talking to Cameron Caulfield. He's in studio, former Baylor offensive lineman with us on 365 Sports.
So how do you, if nobody wants to play center, how did he convince so many guys? Like Ivory Wade was, he played a guard, he played a tackle like you did, but he'd moved around a little bit. All of a sudden we get to, game 1, Ivory Wade's the center. And it was like, oh, this is interesting.
You ever played that game where you're all drawing straws and no one wants to do it? Yeah, that was kind of how that situation worked out. Ivory was a great athlete, incredibly flexible, very quick, and just was able to move into that position. I couldn't do it. we had some pretty stellar tackles at that time, and Cyril was already halfway to being an All-American by then. So, it was like, how can we get the best 5 guys on the field together? And myself and Troy had played with Ivory for 3 years at that point. So it's like, man, I'd rather keep him on the field than, try to figure out how to get someone else in there.
One of the other guys that would move the pile for you back in the day was Glasgow Martin. There was another power back that was a part of the running.
Yeah, put his head down and just hit whatever was in front of him.
Was Spencer Drango the most talented offensive lineman? You were there with him for your final year. He was a blue-chip offensive recruit from Cedar Park. Would you say he was the most talented, or was it Jason Smith? Who was it?
I'd say Spencer was the most gifted. He would do stuff as an 18-year-old, and, us old heads, 22 at the time, would look at him like, how do you do that? It just came natural to him, but he was too goofy to give him any, type of good praise. So Jason was for sure a specimen, and I saw him a couple weeks ago, and he's even more large than I remember. Not in a bad way. He's just a giant human being. But yeah, Cyril was one of those that could push over a car if he had to. Danny Watkins was one of the most just savage players that have ever had the pleasure of being on his team and not the other team. And then, J.D. Walton was wired differently. He was an All-American through and through and just a phenomenal player.
Danny was good for a 15. Not every game, but
if they'd had instant replay back then, he'd have been good for 30 every game.
Close to every game, he was good for a 15, and most of the time it didn't hurt him. And it was, I don't know if that was like just sending a message or what, but he was good for a, not just a hold. I mean, that's normal, that happens, but an absolute.
Well, he's a fireman.
Yeah, don't cross me.
Well, he was a hockey player.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's like, this is like hockey, right? Worst thing that happens, I get thrown in the penalty box, and we go on. But yeah, he was wired different and still is. I mean, he runs into burning buildings on purpose. An adrenaline junkie.
Did you know
it off like when he was on the Eagles, was just doing it for free?
Yeah, but did you know then that he didn't love football when he was at Baylor?
Oh yeah,
you knew then that that was just something he was doing.
He loved playing football with us. We had a great group. He was living with JD. I was there most of the time. We had a great group, and I think he enjoyed the camaraderie of being there. Loved playing with Kaz. Him and Clements were great. Jeff Lebby was there at the time. He was a GA grad assistant, but they were like the same age. So we had a great network of guys. And yeah, as he said, he didn't get along with who was the old timer that was at the Eagles when he was there. He was like a legend, but as he put it, he was a crusty guy, and did not get along with Danny. So I think from that moment he walked in and was like, oh, this is not the family environment I just came from. And I think that's where he then went to the firehouse to find that camaraderie and never wanted to go back.
I bring this up a lot when people ask me whether it's a show somewhere else around the country or what we discuss as far as the resiliency of Baylor football. You were a part of that run that got them back into a bowl game for the first time in 16 or 17 years. And then it was torn down in 16. And then here comes Matt Rule, and he builds them back up. And then he leaves, and here's Dave Aranda. Then there's COVID, and it's a terrible year of 2-7. And yet here they are last year with what they're doing and what the expectations are. What does it say, in your opinion, about – it's not a blue blood program, but it's been a really good program for the most part for 12 years. What does it say about the resiliency?
Yeah, it's hard for me to – you look at the blue blood programs, and – I think it's borderline offensive that we're not in that conversation, because you look at, winningest programs over the last 15 years. I got to imagine we're somewhere near the top. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster as a fan and as an alumni, that it's like, you're proud of it, you're not proud of it, you're proud of it, you're not proud of it. And so, especially living here in town, it's been something that I've kind of just kept doing my thing, and it's something that's a part of me, but haven't spent a whole bunch of time up at the facility. One cool story is last year, Wetzel had reached out to me and just said, "Hey, Coach Aranda, wants to introduce himself. He's, wants to bring a bunch of the old heads back around and just, celebrate the history." And that was never the case after Bryles left. It was like, this is our guys. We're going to lock the doors. But yeah, I just hopped on the phone, FaceTime me, knew all my stats at Baylor, my high school coach, that kind of stuff. I just wanted to say thanks for all you did, and I want you to come around and be part of this program. And so he didn't have to do that. And I mean, now it's been 100 years since I played, so it was very cool of him to do that. And I've heard that from a lot of players is they welcome the old players back, and they want to remember the guys that got the program where it is.
What makes you feel older, that or like when a guy you played with, like Robert, is now on television?
Yeah, that's still bizarre to me. And I usually hear his voice on a broadcast before, and it's like, oh, that's that goofy dude that I remember. But yeah, I texted him a couple months ago. I was doing something, had the TV on in the background, and he pops on, and in the middle, looks like he's in his living room, just throws a tie on and talks for a couple hours. And it's like, dude, what are you doing trying to go back and play? That's dumb. You've got it figured out. No, he's doing well, and he's doing big things. I mean, I think he's getting more famous doing that than he was playing.
You know what I do think it's interesting, and people ask me this about like Robert. They say, well, what did you see this coming from him? I'm like, oh, always. This was something it could. But I will also tell you, you can hear on the broadcast, some people think that quarterbacks are automatically the coolest guys on the field. I think Robert's kind of proving that he's a little bit of a dork in a good way. But like he wasn't, he wouldn't walk in the room like, oh, I'm the coolest guy ever. He was just so talented.
No, he'd walk in the room with his knee-high weird socks on, with, some crazy outfit. You're like, oh, and there's Robert. But yeah, now that he's a dad, I think it's funny because he's like, he was a dad jokes before he was a dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he brings
so
something.
He's caught up to it.
Yeah, he did. But I think he brings something different to a broadcast. He's not a square like, everyone else is. He's goofy, and he kind of brings that, and he's gotten better. His first couple was like, you don't try to be that funny.
Yeah.
But he's done well. I think he's now like the number 2 guy for ESPN, number 2 crew.
Yeah, he's rising up that totem pole. Somebody mentioned, you talk about, we asked about Baylor and how successful they've been. In the top 10 for the most wins since 2014, which of course was the second Big 12 title, but not in the college football playoff yet. And there's also Oklahoma State near the very top as part of that because they've been really consistent under Coach Gundy. TCU, despite a couple of up and down years recently, they're in that same conversation. So 3 of the teams, 10 teams are part of the Big 12. And in fact, we just saw Oklahoma State win the game against Baylor. When you watch, you mentioned you see technique, you see scheme, you see what they're doing now. When you watch them play, Paul mentioned this, if you lose a guy, or Craig, you lose a player, how much is it to overcome? They don't have Khalil Keith at left guard, big human being, a pile driver. They have talent there, but he's just different. Can you notice that, or you even get to focus in on that as much right now?
The thing that I noticed the most, and I alluded to it earlier, was you remove a guy, you remove a unit that has played so many games together, and it's not just the 12 Saturdays. It's the past drills all through the week. It's the just knowing where the other person's going to be. I think that's probably the part that's hardest to recoup is not the individual talent of that guy, but it's how he works with the guys next to him. And I saw that highlighted on Saturday was, they were kind of struggling to pass off a twist. They were, struggling with some inside games and some pass rushes that got home, that probably wouldn't, didn't see that stuff getting home last year. So you can tell that, you've still got a lot of great pieces, but it's taken a little bit to jive together.
The cohesion. Yeah. From Troy Yount, would you ask Cameron, if not already asked, which we have, who's the least favorite individual player that you remember in your time at Baylor that you didn't want to face? Or you got like, oh, this is going to be a day?
On the field, like
Yes.
not that I didn't like him personally.
No, not.
Easy.
You can tell us that too if you want to.
It's easy. Sean Oakman was a transfer my senior year. And so before this, whatever you call this transfer portal and all this craziness now, remember the days you had to sit out a year when you transferred? So Sean Oakman was our scout team defensive end the 2012 year. And you want to know why we were so freaking good?
Yeah, you had.
That's what we lined up against on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. And, as Spencer could tell you, by the time we got to Saturday, it was like, whew, at least we don't have to play him again.
Yeah. And sometimes you forget about it. It's the guys who you go against, not so much a guy from Oklahoma State or Texas or Oklahoma.
That 2012 year, we did not play somebody that good the whole year.
As Sean Oakman.
Yeah. Because, you're not playing on Saturday. All he had to do was eat, lift, and show up at practice. He was fresh.
And he's different.
He built different.
Yeah, he's different. All the way around, different kind of a dude.
There's only a couple guys in my career that, you get walked back in a pass rushing drill and you're, just trying to grab something. And you're like, man, he's just way longer than me, and I'm not small.
You played over 300 pounds. You obviously have trimmed down since your playing days, and a lot of guys do that. Some, unfortunately, they can't. Did you miss the game at all when you played your last game? Did you ever have to go through that time where you kind of had the EBGBs?
Not really. When I walked away, I did it. I was good with my decision. I was seriously dating my wife now. I was almost done with grad school. I was, you mentioned fishing and hunting, and nothing's worse for that than football. So I was just ready to start the next phase of my life. So I didn't do the training. I didn't do the, the combine and that stuff. So I kind of had quite a bit of time. I didn't like wash out and, not get on a program. I had walked away on my own time. But I will say it was a kick in the shins coming back that first year. Everything we'd worked for, freaking Bryce Petty gets the job, and they go and win a Big 12 championship and close down the case with all the guys that I played with. That stung a little bit. I remember, and I'll never forget it, I was standing in the front row of the stadium the podium when they closed the case down, standing right next to Mike Hicks, and both of us had been on that run, and we were the oldest ones out of that group. I'm just looking up at all the guys that we played with, that came in with, and they're holding the trophy, and we're like, man, we really just missed it, barely, just barely.
Cameron Caulfield, it's great to see you, man. We really appreciate it. Really
Good to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Philip Blake, somebody asked about Philip Blake, and who's on the chat room as well. Ask him about playing with Philip Blake. You kind of did. He's still playing in the Canadian Football League.
I saw that on Instagram. Yeah, he's still holding on to the dream. And I've been out a long time.
Yes, you have been. 10 years almost, I think it is. Yeah.
What was it? Last year was the 10th anniversary of the Heisman Trophy.
Mm-hmm. RG3's 2011 run. And then, of course, he said Sean Oakman is still here as well on the same team. He's still playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you always wonder, of course, he had the story that came up and all that story about him, and he was had to go through his trial.
Right.
Would he have played in the NFL?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that 2014, 13 year, I think he was going to get drafted just off that. Remember that scene at the coin toss where he rolls out there with his shirt pulled up and and he's like tattooed and six pack. I think he would have gotten drafted just off of that alone, because everyone was like, this dude, they don't make many like that.
The combine freak or something like that too.
Freak,
yeah.
I think he heard himself coming back another year, a little bit, but because that was at the Cotton Bowl. I tried to ask him about going pro at the media availability, and he was FaceTiming with a girl during the media availability. It was a weird, weird situation.
That would not have gone over well with NFL scouts. They would, or NFL personnel people. Cameron, thank you, man. Keep up what you're doing. Good job. Good to see you. Cameron Caulfield, former Baylor offensive lineman, All-American as well at Baylor, along with many offensive linemen during that time. And this is 365 Sports. When we come back, we'll discuss Brigham Young, Notre Dame on 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. And how can he do that? He can set you up. You have to contact him, and I'm going to give you that. Well, in fact, it's a website, PettyClinicLowT.com. Top left-hand corner, email, phone number. Contact them, his staff, or Dr. Petty. Tell him I sent you. He can set you up to get your blood work. He will look at the blood results, look at your testosterone levels, and if they're too low, he can put you in a program so you can increase your testosterone levels and then become the high-performance man you want to be, used to be, and need to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikem 365 Radio. Are you a Sikem 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikem365.com.
We are, again, up until 6 o'clock with much more. We've now checked in with a few schools, and great to have former Baylor offensive lineman Cameron Caulfield in studio. Greg Wrubell, voice of Brigham Young Athletics, joins us now on 365 Sports. Notre Dame this week. It's been a really good schedule for Brigham Young. That win against Baylor, the loss to Oregon, and there's still Arkansas around the corner. Greg, how much does a game like this maybe set up Brigham Young for something special if they can get through Notre Dame?
Well, when the season opened, I thought there were 4 show-me games for BYU this year. They've already played 2 of them back-to-back, the Baylor home game, the Oregon away game. They got Baylor in Provo, didn't show well, lost at Oregon in Eugene. Of course, the Ducks have some pretty remarkable, home win streaks going in conference, out of conference. Either way, they lose that game. Comes down to the last 2 show-me games, Notre Dame in Vegas, Arkansas at home. Then you've got Liberty, ECU, Boise, Utah Tech, and Stanford. These are really the last 2 opportunities for BYU to really put itself into a conversation that relates to the primetime postseason, and these games are games that BYU has to win to get into that conversation. I think a split doesn't do it. Once you get to 2 losses and you're an FBS independent, it's tough to even think about New Year's Six at that point. If you stay at 1 loss with the schedule BYU has, they could be in that mix by the end of the year, but it pretty much means running the table. I think anything other than that, and the Cougs drop into simply trying to get to 6 wins and get to a postseason game somewhere. So these are massive games for BYU, and it's an NBC coast-to-coast opportunity at Allegiant Stadium Saturday night. A great opportunity for BYU. Notre Dame opened in the top 5 in the preseason. Lost 2 games, quickly fell out. They're 2-2 now, but it's still Notre Dame. That's a valuable win, and then Arkansas at home kind of speaks for itself. But 2 huge weeks for BYU in terms of a springboard.
So from BYU's perspective, looking at Notre Dame, they have to obviously look at them as the Notre Dame who just beat North Carolina. But overall, where are they? I mean, what kind of matchup is it going to be for Notre Dame? I know that Marcus Freeman's got a pretty physical defense, but seems like there's not as much experience coming back there as there would be at BYU right now.
And they're working on a new starting quarterback. He'll get his first, his first true away start was the North Carolina game. He'll get a neutral game now in Vegas. So Pine's the new QB. The defense is the only defense in America without multiple takeaways. And BYU conversely doesn't give the ball away. BYU has had 1 giveaway all season, and it came in the season opener. So BYU for the first time, my football history goes back to 1972, LaVell Edwards' first season. Dating back to 1972, BYU never had 4 consecutive games with no giveaways. Well, they're on a 4-game streak right now with no giveaways since that pick in the end zone at South Florida. That was a month ago. So you play a month of turnover-free football, you're going to give yourself a shot. And that's what BYU's been doing. And conversely, and again, Notre Dame has not been specializing in ball hawking right now.
Greg, going back to the Oregon game, their only loss that came right after Baylor. Obviously, there's a lot of emotions in that Baylor game. Turn right around, have to go up to Eugene. What kind of went wrong up there? I know that there was, certainly the second and third quarter in terms of the bracketing of halftime. Oregon had a boatload of points, but what kind of went down? Was that an energy dump? What'd you think?
Yeah, Oregon owned the middle late. There's no doubt about that. That was a big part of the win. I thought that BYU lost its edge, and I'd argue that the last game BYU really played with an edge for 60 minutes was the Baylor game. Even though it was low scoring and kind of a slugfest, I felt BYU was fully engaged defensively in that game. Even when the offense wasn't really clicking yet, I thought the defense was right there with one of the best teams in the country. And so that I thought was the last true edge game for BYU. For whatever reason, and you would never look past Oregon in Eugene. It wasn't a matter of looking past, but the coaches felt that when the game began, the Cougs weren't right there. And there were a lot of sloppiness issues in the early part of that game, whether it was, drop balls or penalties, just a lack of sharpness. And if you're not sharp against the fast Oregon team playing at home, you could be behind the 8 ball, and BYU certainly was there. So I think having Notre Dame on the schedule might actually be a good thing for BYU. Being an underdog might be a good thing for BYU because it just played 2 games where they failed to cover on spreads between 21 and 25 points against Wyoming and Utah State. BYU won those games without playing at their best, playing really kind of one good half and one so-so half of football. But I think the situation this weekend actually does set up well for BYU, being a national stage, being an underdog, and looking to regain what got them into the national conversation by beating Baylor back in early September.
Jaren Hall is obviously really, really good, not just as a college quarterback, but what he might be in the future. But right now, Brigham Young's worried about where he is now. Very savvy, can make plays with his feet. He's also very, very smart with how he handles and takes care of the football. Doesn't he have a streak going right now? I don't want to jinx him, where he's on a pretty good run without throwing a pick.
144 consecutive pass attempts without throwing a pick, and that's only his second longest streak at BYU. He's got a 163 in there as well. He's the only quarterback in BYU history with 3 separate INT-free streaks of 100-plus pass attempts. He had a 111 or 117 as well back in there, too. So that is his hallmark, no pun intended. And he is not just careful, he's productive. Like he doesn't just mince it around and take the unders and throw in the flats. He will take shots. He is not shy, yet he's still incredibly careful and incredibly efficient. And he's doing it without the top 2 receiving weapons that BYU had coming into the season, Gunnar Romney and Puka Nacua. They've still yet to be on the field together at any point this season. They got Gunnar back last week for the first time in his first game back after a lacerated kidney, but Puka Nacua is still on the sideline. So when those 2 guys get back, and hopefully it's this weekend, they play together for the first time, Jaren has more of his full complement of an arsenal to work with.
Is Puka trending in that direction?
Yeah, they kept him out of the Utah State game with the hope that was on a short week. So that was last Thursday already. The hope that he'd be ready for Notre Dame if they gave him a little bit of extra time. But he got hurt in camp, got in, gets hurt early in the regular season, comes back, gets hurt again, goes out again. It's just been so tough for him to play consecutive games, and it's kind of been a thing for him. Some guys just have a tough time staying on the field, and Puka's been one of those guys to this point. The hope is when they do get him back, it's for a longer stretch.
You know, one of the guys on the chat room is a Brigham Young fan, mentioned that right now, and I'm just asking you, obviously, we paid a lot of attention to Brigham Young and still have, because they're about to be a part of the same conference. But have they struggled stopping the run? Is that one of the issues? They're not running the ball as well as they need to, and also on the opposite side, stopping the run?
Yeah, and the yards per rush allowed numbers aren't the worst. You know, they're roughly in that middle third nationally of yards per rush against, but teams love to run against BYU, so the yards per game number climbs up a little bit, and they're ranked in the 90s in rush yards per game against. But the yard per rush number, it you can work with it, but it seems that teams, once they sense a weakness, have gone to it rather consistently. But I will note that it's been predominantly a first half phenomenon against the lesser teams BYU's played. The Cougs have made some very nice halftime adjustments to kind of shut down teams, and Wyoming and Utah State are 2 of them that have a lot of success in the first half and much less after halftime. So, yeah, I think they want to see the rush numbers pick up a little bit, drop that yards per rush again. But it hasn't been a killer to this point. But these, again, were lesser teams. I think if you get a team, like Notre Dame that gets on a roll, and now North Carolina's rush defense is not great, but Notre Dame still ran it for nearly 300 yards against the Tar Heels on their home field, and that would not be a formula that BYU would look at as amenable to victory for sure.
Greg, there was the story last fall around this time, even earlier than this time, when Brigham Young, Houston, Cincinnati, and also UCF were going to join the Big 12. It seems like forever ago. There's also been changes since that time, but I know that's on the back burner because of what's going on this week or this season. But can you count it down almost, the excitement of being a part of the Big 12 very soon?
Yeah, and I'm waiting for that schedule release.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's October, November, December. I think it's been as late as December in the past. But in the weeks to come, we're going to see a 2023 Big 12 football schedule with BYU's name on it, and that's kind of the next benchmark, the next milestone date is actually seeing something come out of the Big 12 office with BYU and dates and opponents in the Big 12. That is the next big, kind of the next big thing to occur to make this thing more of a reality. And so that's what I'm kind of anticipating.
Do you have a spot you want to go to in year one for sure?
Well, I'm trying to think of basically it would be venues I've not been to in the past, right? So we're going to take out Waco. We're going to take out Austin. We're going to take out Houston. We're going to take out Orlando. We're going to take out Cincinnati. So all the new schools I've visited before, it's places that BYU's not been before. So, places like Stillwater and Lawrence, Kansas. Those are the kinds of things that and even Norman, for example, they've not played there. So hopefully the places BYU's not been to before, hopefully there's a good sprinkling of those in that first schedule.
Do you think that even though it's exciting to be a part of the conference, whatever conference it would have been, not just the Big 12, but is there going to be a part of your schedule, you think, Greg, where you miss that independence of playing games like Notre Dame and Vegas, or do you think that there will still be games like that in their non-conference schedule?
I think the future formula will follow a G5, P5, FCS, kind of rotation every year. I think you'll have your 9 Big 12 games. You'll play a G5 home or away. You'll play an FCS home and a P5 home or away. And that'll be kind of the formula for BYU. I think we'll already kind of see that develop in seasons to come. But I don't think there will be a real nostalgia for independence at all. I think it was an interesting and enjoyable 12-year run of kind of globetrotting and playing at different places and taking your team to in front of fan base, parts of the fan base that wouldn't normally get to see you. But I think it'll be much more exciting to settle into a rivalry situation and contending for conference championships and getting a sense of routine in a league like the Big 12. Independence was fun. BYU made the most of it, but I think it doesn't compete with being in a league, having compatriots, contesting a similar goal, all those kinds of things. And so I'm personally looking forward to the novelty of getting to these venues again I've never seen before in a conference setting. And so that to me trumps everything. Yeah,
and it seems like those who are going to remain, the 8 remaining teams, have opened up their arms to those coming in. And Brigham Young probably right there at the top of the list. Thank you very much for your time, Greg. Good luck this weekend.
Hey, anytime, I'm here for you. Appreciate it.
Sure. Greg Wrubell, voice of Brigham Young Athletics on BYU Notre Dame, which is an interesting, nice, juicy little non-conference game.
Oh, and they had, Notre Dame had the cool, uniform drop video that was hangover themed early in the year. There's been a lot of buildup to this game. I hope that, Notre Dame can match it because, I know they beat North Carolina. They've been a little uninspiring to me overall. And we'll see. I'm a big proponent of Marcus Freeman. If he wasn't going to be the head coach at Notre Dame last year, he was going to be the head coach somewhere, and I still think that's a great hire. But I would like to see them kind of hit their stride a little bit. I'd like to see this be a really good game.
Yeah, and the fact that they played Baylor last year when all that was going on, we've mentioned that 1,000 times. I probably need to stop mentioning it, but it was just ironic, the timing of that. And so, again, look forward to it next July the 1st, right? Is it July 1st? It is. UCF, Houston, Brigham Young, and Cincinnati officially a part of the Big 12. And who knows what might happen between now and then. Brandon said Brigham Young's defense is nothing special. Notre Dame should be very competitive. I tell you what, Brigham Young's defense Baylor moved the ball, but it was kind of a slugfest. They did not open it up much. They just didn't, and we saw that, and it's kind of been something that we've seen. They're getting better, but Brigham Young, that game up in Provo, for everyone that went to that game and experienced that game, they said it was phenomenal. The atmosphere, the site, the surroundings, and the game itself, of course, with Brigham Young winning in double overtime. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. When you drive by there, their lot has cars, trucks, SUVs, vehicles, and not everybody does, but they do because they have the networking of so many dealerships around the country, Alan Samuels brand and also dealerships. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. If you have not driven the Wagoneer 2 or 3 or test driven, either one of them, just go do that, even if you don't think you're going to buy one. But if you get inside of one, you're going to want to go, whoa. And then, of course, talk about the sticker price and much, much more. Different times throughout the month, they have great offers and dealer discounts and more. So always be listening for that. And when that is available, I will tell you about it as well. Not just the Wagoneer 2 and 3 that are spectacular, gorgeous, all the amenities you want, all the space you want, the luxuriousness you want inside either one of those vehicles and SUVs, but the Ram trucks and back-to-back Motor Trend Truck of the Year, or much more when it comes to Jeep and what they provide. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Ted Teague, the general manager, and a great staff, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikem sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
We're fighting hard at Pickup Outfitters in our battle to end truck nudity. But it's not just about putting an outfit on a naked truck, it's about making sure you have the very best customer service. So we offer the Pickup Outfitters Lifetime Installation Guarantee. Over time, sometimes your outfit needs a little tune-up, maybe some tightening, adjusting, whatever. If you outfitted your truck at Pickup Outfitters, that tune-up is absolutely no charge for the remainder of the time you own that truck. We also offer free warranty assistance. If for any reason you need to use your warranty, you just bring it back to us and we take care of it. It just makes sense. I mean, operating without a promise like that would be like offering customer service in the nude. And if you've seen our staff, trust me, you don't want that. So do your part to end truck nudity by outfitting your truck, Jeep, SUV, or van at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, where we promise to serve you fully clothed. Check out our website, createacommotion.com.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and you know, I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikem 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Tonight at 10:30 on the CW channel, Sports Tonight, CW channel. Well, Emery Winter does an incredible job putting all that, weaving all that together tonight at 10:30 on the CW channel. No Baylor pregame coming up this week because they're off until Thursday, and next Thursday will be a combination pregame show and our show here on 365 Sports. I don't know if you guys saw this. I know we don't talk about this much. The main core of what we do is what college football, but the Big 12 women's preseason honors came out. Iowa State's Ashley Jones is the preseason player of the year. Asia Blackwell from Baylor, 4th consecutive year newcomer of the year preseason is at Baylor because they've been so good in the transfer portal. So there we go with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I'm not really a huge preseason honors guy because it's all about just basically hype. But I know that obviously Ashley Jones, there's some substance to it. But I'm more keen on the postseason honors that you went out and you actually got those. But yeah, I understand why they're important. Everybody needs the table set for them and the plates put in front of them. And here are the players to know, and here's who we expect to be good. So move forward accordingly. I get the whole reason for it all. But yeah, let's see who's the postseason player of the year. And if it's those folks, then hey, congrats to them.
All right, from some of the chat room discussion, metal. I want Houston to be part ways with Holgorsen. He's not the guy to lead them into the Big 12. Yesterday, Joseph Duarte covers him, said that they want as much as they can to make sure that he gets at least a year's foot in the door in the Big 12 before there's any kind of decision.
Yeah, if you want that, then you got to root for them to lose a bunch more games this year, which is entirely possible. But outside of that, and just more fights on the sidelines, I don't think that they're keen on doing that at the moment. It sounds like they would like to make it work. I just feel like, I don't know, this isn't something that you just push back down and then Dana's never, out of sorts all again. Like, this seems like you'll deal with it again at some point, but hopefully for their sake, you're able to rebound a little bit and play well enough to have something good to feel good about. And then the next blow-up maybe doesn't feel as bad as this one does in the midst of, losing or multiple overtimes and all the stuff they've just been dealing with. So, yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration for Houston fans, but it's not happening right now, and it's probably not happening after this season, barring, again, some just epic collapse with a bunch of sideline fights and stuff like that.
Yeah, if they go 4-3 down the stretch, they're going to be. He's not going to go, and that's where I would put that's where I'd put them at if you just picked the losses that they would probably have based on Memphis, but maybe they could beat Memphis. I mean,
they could beat Memphis, but they could also definitely lose to Memphis.
But Memphis is a winning record. Memphis is 4-1 right now. Navy's not been good this year. USF is about to fire their coach. SMU is going to be really tough for them on the road. Obviously, Temple, East Carolina on the road. That's going to be tough. But, I mean, these are all games they probably should win and thought they were going to at the beginning of the year. So they could go 4-3. They go 3-4. They might go 7-0. We don't know. I mean, like the meaty part of their schedule was the first part when you have UTSA, Tech, and then as we found out, early in the year, Kansas. That was the tough part, and they're kind of through that now. And Tulane. My apologies, Willie Fritz. But the schedule does get a little easier now for them than it was in the first part of the year.
All right, go ahead.
No, I mean, it does. It does. I don't think it's necessarily, though, like the fact they've lost games. I think it's the style of how they've lost games. I think it's, a guy running over to the sideline and shoving the hell out of his teammate. I think it's Dana caught on camera screaming like he's about to kill somebody. I think those are the things that you combine that with the losing, and that's when it's like, okay, does he have control over what's going on? Like, is this good culturally? Is that something we need to worry about? And, if he goes on 7-0 run, then, yeah, the culture's just fine. But certainly I think the opponents played a big role and probably did put more of a spotlight on their losses than it should have. But, I think the things that we saw happen with our own eyes also told us, like, no, that's proof that, yeah, there is something wrong here. So we'll see. We'll see on the rest of this run. But I think even if they were to go 7-0, there's still people that just aren't going to be Holgorsen fans too, and that just feel like they could probably, go find somebody else to launch this new era beginning next year, but not likely to happen.
Once you lose that grip and people start looking for reasons they don't like you anymore, or they don't like you, and now they're looking for reasons to get rid of you, and I'm not so much the case, but we see that, we hear it. Man, it doesn't seem like it's so hard to get that back. Like what Brian Harson's going through would have been a great win against LSU, and they blew the big lead, among others. I was going to go back to BYU for a second. Romney and Nakua, two really good wide receivers, are back. They did not play against Baylor, and Roberts, of course, dominated or was the big receiver there. Romney and Nakua have 8 catches for 99 yards and no touchdowns, and Jaron Hall's doing okay. Epps and Roberts have been his two main targets, 36 catches for nearly 400 yards or over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Hill's got 4 scores as well. They found a way to overcome the lack of wide receivers that were supposed to help them in the comeback, and so they seem to be doing just fine. But Jaron Hall probably has a little bit to do with that. And considering the running game has not been all that impressive, that's even more impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they've managed through the injuries and Tyler Algiers, he left. I mean, he's playing for the Falcons now. Sometimes we forget about that guy and how good he was for them. So
John Bolster on the chat room about Baylor and the staff. He goes, "Listen, I like the Baylor staff, but I really kind of wonder if they look back." And we've discussed if they looked at wide receivers in the transfer portal, and Dave Aranda gave us that answer last Monday. He said, "I'm wondering, and I wonder if they went in the transfer portal looking for a back to replace either what they had with Abram Smith or also Treston Ebner, which was the perfect combination of the two." And the banger they thought was going to be their guy is Tay McWilliams. And he got hit in the Brigham Young game, and he's not been back. It's a big back who got knocked out basically in that game, and he has not been back. And that's something that you wonder if he'll run the same when he gets back, at least because he got smoked in that game against Brigham Young. And they just haven't had that, and Quaylon Jones only does so much.
Yeah, I mean, they thought that maybe Josh Fleeks would give them a little something, and obviously he's now in the transfer portal. And they really thought Tay McWilliams would, and he got hurt. You can't have 17 running backs on scholarship. You got what you got. And so they thought, okay, we've got Tay McWilliams, we've got, Josh Fleeks, we've got Squirrel Williams, we've got, you got who you got, Quaylon Jones, okay. I mean, how many running backs can you have? 9? You can't do that. So you've got your 6 or whatever guys, and hey, it just so happens that one of them got hurt right away, basically. And not just, a twisted ankle. He got enough of a head injury that he's missed now 3 games. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough break for the running back room, but, there's only so much you can do. This isn't like the NFL where you can just, go to the free agent wire and go grab a running back who's, lingered around the league for a while or who just got cut by UT or something. So, yeah, it's just a bad break for them. And I don't know how much they looked into the portal at running back. I mean, you also only have so many scholarships, too, so I don't know what their situation was there. And as you said, they did look at wide receiver. We know that for a fact. And they went and grabbed Josh White at linebacker. He hasn't mattered as of right now, but I think that's more of a play down the line. So, they dipped in the portal. I mean, I don't think that they weren't paying attention to what they had. I just think sometimes you might feel better about something than it actually is. You might think that, hey, this guy's better than we think he is. We know a high school team that thought certain parts of their team were going to be way better than they actually are, and they got into the season, they're like, oh, crap, that's not nearly as good as we thought it was, and we're in trouble. And that's part of the deal, man. And I think that's part of the deal for them is, in hindsight, yeah, Dave Aranda probably goes and grabs some guy out of the transfer portal at wide receiver, but was he supposed to predict an injury at running back too and also go get a running back?
In running back, if you look, I mean, when you have Tay McWilliams coming back, Richard Reese coming in, Squirrel Williams healthy, let's not forget about Jordan Jenkins, who is on the roster as well, and Quaylon Jones. You feel like out of those 5 guys, based on the wide zone and how the wide zone is supposed to be kind of a plug-and-play running back offense because of what it is, you would think that one of those guys would have, but you've got a couple guys on the roster, down that, I know that Jenkins is just a redshirt freshman at this point, but maybe you'd hope that he would have been a little bit further along in understanding the offense. He's clearly not there yet. So you can't really play him because he doesn't understand the one cut and go yet. Squirrel, they've brought along slowly.
He had 2 carries in that game against Oklahoma
very
State.
Slowly. Richard Reese has been really good for them, but they are missing a guy who can pop some shoulder pads, and that's been Tay McWilliams. And Quaylon Jones is what Quaylon Jones is. I mean, they know who he is.
Yeah.
By the way, I was
told the one that hurts that Jordan Jenkins has not emerged. The tremendous high school running back. Of course, most college guys were tremendous in high school, but I really thought by now he would be a part of the mix.
Yeah, and I don't really know what's going on there. I mean, it could have been, just a change in what they're doing is not going to suit what he does. Could have been a misevaluation in some ways, or just I'm trying to think. Was he was a Rule guy, wasn't he? I mean, as far as recruiting goes, or was he an Aranda? No, I guess he would have been an Aranda.
He
guy,
would have been
right?
an Aranda.
So I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't off the top of my head remember his exact timeline of was Fedora recruiting him too? I don't know. Yeah. So. I'm not sure. And sometimes, hey, guys just aren't going to play as freshmen and sophomores too. I mean, not every guy does that. So, I think they're fine. You know, I do think that they're, after last year, there's a little bit of like, oh my God, like, you know how hard it is to duplicate what they did last year. Now here they are and they're 3-2 already. And it's like, okay, you can easily see them losing every game the rest of the way. You can easily see them winning every game the rest of the way. And I think that uncertainty is like kind of killing people and probably causing a lot of us to overreact to certain parts of this team. They're not that far away. They're not that far away. They could, you know, just as easily be 5-0 right now as they are 3-2. Just a couple things go their way. And I know that a lot of teams could be better if a couple things go differently, but they're good enough to be 5-0, and they're bad enough with certain mistakes to be 3-2 like they are right now. So we'll see what they are the rest of the way, and you know that'll tell us a lot more.
We will come back and look at LSU. Had a huge comeback win against Auburn. They needed. They will play this weekend against Tennessee. Mike Scarborough, our good friend, on the LSU Tigers. Next on 365 Sports. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace can help find out what hurts so much. Whether it is your shoulder, your back, it could be your knee, it could be your ankle, could be a muscle somewhere that is bothering you, or a ligament, or something else. And your doctor says, hey, we need to get a better look at that, and they want to get an MRI. If they ask you to set up, or they're going to set up an MRI, you then tell them, if you're going to do that, and we need it, then I want to go to Ideal MRI. They'll listen to you because they know about Ideal MRI, because what Ideal MRI does is find out what is wrong, what hurts inside of your body. I even had an MRI one time to get an MRI of my abdomen just to kind of make sure everything was where it's supposed to be. They can do that to give you a little peace of mind as well. For example, if you have any kind of issues in your family or any kind of history of prostate cancer, they can even do an MRI of your abdomen to make sure everything looks okay. That's also peace of mind. And their machine is amazing. I've been inside of it 3 or 4 different times. I'm telling you, it's incredible. The specs and techs and specialists are amazing. Ideal MRI, and here's the kicker. 1, find out what hurts and where it is or what's wrong, or maybe even, well, it's not it either. $497 or less every single time. That, my friends, is amazing. $497 or less every time at idealmri.com.
During Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels, our great selection of new cars and trucks come with amazing deals and competitive financing that makes you ask, why shop anywhere else? The new 2022 Ram trucks are designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. These legendary, award-winning trucks give you that first-class feel. Luxurious leather trim seating options, exceptional legroom and storage, plus surround view camera options you'd expect from a premium truck. Come see our selection today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment, and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikem 365 Radio.
Emery somehow did that. Flag is down back at the 17. Wesley Steiner came right in on John Emery, and Emery dismissed him. John Emery, welcome back.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We love all of our guests. We like Mike Scarborough a little extra special. He's a fun dude and also covers LSU. He's now with us on 365 Sports. Can you imagine the mood? Tennessee coming to the town. It's going to be a great game, but where would they be right now in Baton Rouge had they not dug out from that hole against Auburn?
Yeah, that was an ugly affair, but it's kind of one of those deals where knowing what was inherited, knowing how it's been a patchwork deal the whole way with the number of transfer portal kids and what he's working with, two tackles that are freshmen, a true freshman tight end, Harold Perkins, who you guys are familiar with right there in Texas, a true freshman, but is absolutely fantastic. But you've had a starting walk-on corner. You had a walk-on punt return at one point. And so you'll take the wins any way you can get them. But I've been telling LSU fans on our show that get ready for a lot of games where you're probably aggravated for at least a half of it, even in multiple wins. But I think right now where LSU's at, I think they're ahead of schedule a little bit or maybe right on schedule. And if somehow they can get one past Tennessee, I think they'll definitely be ahead of schedule and on their way to the expectation of where I think most people had them at 8-4.
Do you feel like Jaden Daniels is getting more comfortable and that he can maybe loosen up a bit? It feels to me like you watch him for a little bit and it's like nobody's told him it's okay to do some other things than run the ball.
I think I don't know what's going through his head, but the way he plays, it gives you the thought that he is so fearful of throwing an interception that he waits too long to let loose of the ball. And rather than throwing no spot, or throwing the ball before a receiver comes out of his break, he's waiting till the receiver is open and wide open before he'll throw it. And with the competition that LSU's facing, and it's going to get stronger each week the rest of the way, you're not going to be able to get away with that. So the flip side of it is LSU wouldn't be where they are without him because he's so devastating in the run game. He kills defenses. I'd like to know how many offensive possessions LSU started with a false start penalty. We're in 1st and 15, and they're in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, he pulls it down and effortlessly runs to the first down marker, and they got a whole new set of series. I mean, he's done it over and over since the first game. So, but this is going to be a whole new deal this Saturday, and certainly everybody's upset here that it's an 11 a.m. kickoff. And so, but I don't know what they're going to do, because you don't want to get into a scoring, trying to match scores with Tennessee and Hendon Hooker and his receivers, and you don't want to. You want to do some things to keep them off the field as much as possible. Kelly also has the policy where if he wins the toss, he likes to take the ball. Well, LSU's offense has started notoriously slow, and they've been second half teams. So if he wins the toss, maybe he ought to change that policy and opt to receive in the third quarter and get that possession back, because most of their first series is a 3 and out.
Mike, you mentioned Hendon Hooker there in that high-powered Tennessee offense under Josh Heupel. What do you think of the LSU defense and how it matches up against the Vols O?
Well, I think one of the things that we've seen at LSU so far, and it's been the absolute bright spot, is the defense. And, you know, they had some struggles early on last week, had some busted coverages, and on the fly they were able to correct it. Matt House, the defensive coordinator, came over from the Chiefs, and the defense is what you expect to see in Baton Rouge. Still not where you're at, you know, talent-wise with the defensive backfield, but at the same time, Jay Ward is one of your better defensive backs in the league, and they've been making a go of it. And so, of course, Sevyn Banks got hurt in that one. Major Burns we're still waiting to see when he's going to come back. But the defense up front is performed very well. I mentioned Harold Perkins. Greg Penn has been a very strong performer. So I think they're going to have some new wrinkles for Tennessee this weekend. I just think as abysmal as LSU's offense was on Saturday, I have a feeling that maybe they do some things different this weekend, and might have some people wondering, well, where's that been? But we'll see. Even though it's an 11 a.m. kickoff, I think Tiger Stadium is going to be rocking Saturday.
Well, they just won't go to bed, Mike. They just go and enjoy and just drink through the night, maybe get a couple-hour power nap, right, and just go straight back into the stadium.
Well, we're just this is another instance where the fan bases certainly here are going to be glad when CBS's final game is broadcast, and we no longer have to deal with that nonsense of them picking games. And if they have a doubleheader, then they can't. ESPN can't do a night game, and it's. Some of the rhyme or reason of the games they pick is crazy. Obviously, they want number one Georgia, but man, what's Georgia going to do to Auburn? I mean, that could be ugly, particularly after the way they performed last week.
Mike, you mentioned Harold Perkins. There's a guy at the gym, Mike, who's a big LSU fan. Just loves him. And he's been talking about Harold Perkins as a superstar. How good is he, the young man from Cypress Park?
Well, I tell you, I know talking to the guys that cover recruiting in Texas, they, of course, was rated the number one or arguably the number one player in that state. But a lot of people thought he was very raw and was going to need a redshirt year. And that was kind of what everybody thought was the baked cake. And to see what he's doing each and every week, and even though, I imagine at times his head might be swimming a little bit, he still plays fast and loose. And, of course, a lot of people believe he's probably also the best running back on the LSU roster, but he's a linebacker. And so because he's very similar and he's wearing the same number as Devin White. And so Devin White was a running back. Devin White had to be talked into playing linebacker out of high school. So they're similar in that regard as well.
Mike Scarborough, Tiger Bait with us on 365 Sports.
Was that Dave Aranda that talked him into that?
Probably was. I remember at the time we were a part of Rivals, and I was up at the 5-Star Challenge, and it was either Baltimore or Chicago. I can't remember which one. And he was already starting to come around to the idea of being a linebacker. And in fact, that week he worked primarily at linebacker at the 5-Star Challenge. So they kind of worked him over a good bit before his senior year.
Mike, clearly, Kelly's been on the job now for a bit, but still not that long in the grand scheme of things. What has it been like to now see him kind of get deep into a season, approaching this halfway point? I know there's been some stumbles along the way, but just what are some things you've gleaned from covering Brian Kelly so far?
I think he's going to be very similar to what we saw from the other first-year coaches, whether it was Mulkey or the baseball coach, Jay Johnson. Jay Johnson took the baseball team with absolutely zero left-handed pitching, took them to a regional. I think at the end of the year it's going to be similar, where he gets the most out of his team, and at some point he's going to hit a wall, and you're going to realize that as far as the wins and losses, he got as much out of that tournament as he could. And so then you want a top 10 recruiting class, middle of the top 10, top 5, whatever it ends up being. We'll see what they do in the portal. You're not bound by the 25. They're probably going to sign somewhere 31, 32, 33 kids total. And so they've got another strong recruiting class coming in. And then we'll wait to see what happens after that. So, it's an odd year next year. So all of a sudden you get A&M, Florida, and Auburn back at home. And so LSU usually does very well in odd years, particularly. But I still think they're 2 or 3 years away from being a team. But if he can get to the 8-4 mark and have a top middle of the top 10 or top 5 recruiting class, I think he's very much on schedule.
What do you think the new scheduling model is going to do to? I mean, you said in odd years is going to do to how you perceive what teams will do every year, because whenever they announce what it's going to be, it's not going to be as easy to predict who's going to be where.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to end up, because it seemed like for a month there we were absolutely heading toward a 9-game SEC schedule, and then then we started hearing from Sankey that that's not necessarily the case now. Talking about going to doing away with divisions, but how are they going to work the scheduling? And you've got a whole bunch of teams in the league that there's some certain games that they're not going to want to give up. So what's that jockeying for position going to be? When Alabama's adamant that they have to have Tennessee and Auburn has to have Georgia. And even though LSU could care less if they play Florida every year, there was a stretch there where Florida was always a no vote when LSU was trying to get rid of that, because it was, most often in the last 20-something years, LSU's common opponent has been Florida, while Alabama's has been Tennessee. Well, most of these years, Tennessee's been terrible, and Florida's always been a top 15 team, top 10 or top 5. And so, but LSU was one of only like 2 or 3 teams that would vote to get rid of that common opponent scheduling format. And so, I don't know if I liked initially when it was first announced that Oklahoma and Texas were coming in, and maybe there would be pods, because I like the way those pods look. But then they said they're not going to do the pods. But I would like the pods to be used for scheduling.
Oh, okay. Not so much divisions to get wherever you need to get at the end of the year, but just to set up the schedules.
Yeah, I like the pods for the scheduling, and I like the idea of going to a 9-game schedule, SEC schedule.
Okay.
Mike, I'm asking this. I genuinely have no idea. I'm just curious, especially as you mentioned schedules. How much does the A&M kind of – I know that rivalry was manufactured in so many ways like a few years back, but does that game matter to LSU fans?
I think it does, and I think it gains momentum every year. Certainly that 7 overtime game back in 2018, I think really put some firewood on it. But I saw where my buddy Tim Brando was on with Crane and Company yesterday, taking credit for all off season that A&M was overrated. Well, he wasn't the only one saying that. I was. And so I'm getting a real kick out of seeing everything that I was saying they were going to be in the offseason come true.
You know, you mentioned the crossover games across in the SEC. You're right. Now, Tennessee has been kind of just average at best of late, but all of a sudden, if for example, you could have Florida or Georgia or Tennessee or whatever. I mean, if you get the wrong crossover game and someone else, because of rivalries, gets one that's kind of a gimme, although it's a rivalry, that can impact who wins the division.
In my lifetime, the SEC scheduling has never been right. And people look at me with a crazy look when I say, you know what? In the storied years of the SEC, LSU never saw Herschel Walker, never saw Bo Jackson, and never saw Peyton Manning. Like you're talking about, almost a Mount Rushmore of SEC football.
That's basically
LSU
12
never
games. That's basically 4 years, 12, those 3 times. That's 12 times that he could have had a chance to see any of them. Yeah.
Never saw any of them on the road or at home. Never played them.
And when
got a heavy dose of Emmitt Smith, though.
When Herschel Walker was in the league, though, there were less teams. Like Arkansas wasn't even there yet.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah. Missouri and obviously A&M. And Mike, you mentioned the pods. How do you think they're going to handle what Texas and Oklahoma entering the conference? Where do you think how's that going to fit with LSU? If LSU had to pick the teams that they should play because of regionality or rivalry or whatever, historical, who should they play?
Can it be like at my grandma's house where we have the adult table and those two sit at a kiddie table?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Oh, my God. That might be the best part of the show.
And we put a muzzle on the Texas people so we don't have to hear them.
Oh, God, they're going to come after you. I know that, and you will fire right back. Be ready.
Yeah.
I mean,
everybody's been, saying like, man, you guys don't understand. And of course, I know you guys do, but like everybody tends to think, points the finger to every fan base in the league. No, they're the worst. No, they're the worst. I'm like, nah, man, get ready for what's coming from Austin.
Yep.
Yeah, they're gonna come in and act like they're King Farouk.
Who's that, Paul?
I just like the
Okay,
name.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike, thank you for your time. Anything else with him? You got anything else? Mike, you're the best, man. Hope everything's going well with you.
All right, guys. Talk soon. Y'all have a good rest of the week.
You too, Mike Scarborough. Love his segments with us.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most curious to see about the first couple years in the SEC for Texas is what administrative thing do they go in and try to change that they decide they don't like? Or is the SEC powerful enough to have told them, this is how we do things here? I don't know. I'm curious. Is Texas capitulating and going to the SEC and admitting that they can't carry a league on their own in their own mind, all that, is that enough for them to change what they do, when it comes to trying to throw their weight around?
There is something, I don't know what it is, but there is something that they have looked into. There is something that they know that perhaps they could work on. And there's no one that can convince me otherwise that would possibly even the playing field in some particular way. I don't know what that would be, but there's something that they've already probably done some due diligence about the SEC. They did that with the Big 12. And listen, I think sometimes when people do say things about UT, and I know we have a bunch of UT fans, Paxton among others, who are on our chat room that listen to us and watch us, but I think sometimes most of the aggravation about UT is because of the fans. Not so much about UT, although the Lost Dodge made it clear we are the Joneses and everybody else is not. All right, when we come back, John Machota, the NFL, the Cowboys, they have the Rams. Is that right this week after the Rams were beaten up by the 49ers on Monday, 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, now available on DoorDash. So if you're sitting around and you want to make an order, you can do that on DoorDash. Just go there, make your order, and they'll go get it for you. They also have the best selections of Texas whiskeys available in Waco. So if it is, TX, Devil's River, Balcones, any of that stuff, they've got it there. Garrison Brothers, really great whiskey made in Texas. They have that there. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street behind the bank. Also, they have a great Instagram page where they do different promotions. They had some great stuff with Happy Dad Seltzer back in the summer. They do different promotions with different brands and different things all the time. They're always having a good time. They're always bringing new stuff into Waco that you can try, and maybe you love it. They brought in a whiskey from Tennessee that I like last year, and I bought a whole lot of it from there, so I didn't have to order it from Tennessee. That's the kind of stuff they do. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, behind the bank.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot, and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sikem Bears.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Welcome back to Sikem 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John Machota of theathletic.com covers the NFL and Cowboys with us on Wednesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. John, in the past, if the Cowboys lost somebody, a major part of who they were, to an injury, it just seemed like they could go into a free fall, even if it was a pass rusher or whoever. It does seem like they have obviously been able to not coast, but handle the time without Dak. Does that say something that's different inside of that franchise, the culture of it getting better?
Well, I mean, I certainly think you have to give credit to Mike McCarthy and his staff to, as Jerry put it, right the ship. You know, I mean, they were in a bad spot. You know, when Jerry walked out of the locker room after that Tampa Bay loss, not only because you lose Dak, but just, let's be honest, the team didn't play well. It looked like a team that was ways off from the team that we saw at the end of last season that obviously made the playoffs. And you watch them play against Tampa Bay and you're thinking, even with Dak, they don't look like a playoff team. And so then you add in that Dak might be out 6-8 weeks. And yeah, it didn't look great. And the key to this all, I feel personally, is that Cooper Rush was able to get that win against the Bengals, because beating Washington and the Giants aren't a huge surprise to me. I just think that those teams, they're just going through stuff that they might not be able to right their ships for a while there. So that is what it is. But to get that win over Cincinnati that really most weren't expecting, that just kind of got things headed in the right direction. That was the key. And then the other part of it is just the fact that when the other teams have answered or taken a lead, Cooper Rush has probably played his best ball. When the very next series, he seemed to throw some of his best throws and seemed to get the team in just the right positions to answer right back. And I think opponents don't expect that from a backup quarterback that, let's be honest, they probably didn't know much about until that week's, prep. So yeah, he deserves a ton of credit, but certainly that coaching staff deserves a lot too.
John, have we seen maybe the end of this Dak is going to play myth now that it kind of could be real, and that they know that Cooper Rush can handle it? They're 2 games above 500. They're 3-1. They're on this winning streak. So no matter what happens in the next 2 weeks, they're not in a place where they'd have to rush Dak back.
Yeah, they're certainly not in a spot where they have to rush him back, but I think they would really like to have him back for next week against the Eagles. I mean, Mike McCarthy told us the other day that he's going to have to, he wants to see Dak be a full participant in practice for an entire week before he plays in a game. So that's already eliminating this week, because today he did not practice. He worked off to the side on resistance cords and did conditioning work. He still has a wrap on his hand, and he isn't able to, rip a football and throw it the way you would need to throw it to win NFL games. And so until that is able to happen, which will have to happen in practice for them to see it, then they're not going to just put him out there because he's Dak Prescott and he's the franchise quarterback. It has to make sense medically. And yeah, of course the Cowboys were hopeful that maybe it was only going to be 4 weeks, and that's why they didn't put him on IR. But there's also the science that tells you it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks for a bone to heal. And so it's not like there's been any setbacks or anything. It has to heal, and he has to get the strength back in his hand. And until he does, you can't just put him out there. The other part of it too is that I don't think he's going to be able to be the normal Dak Prescott in those first couple of games, because I don't think you're going to want him under center a bunch, taking a bunch of snaps on that hand. And so I think that puts him more in the shotgun. And the other fact is, quarterbacks' throwing hands get hit quite a bit, whether it's on other, teams' helmets or the way Dak's hand got injured where, his hand hits another defender's hand. So they're going to have him in a spot where they feel comfortable, which will probably be a lot of shotgun. And so maybe that is against Philadelphia. Maybe it is until the following week. But either way, I think they feel that they're in good enough shape that they can be in any of these games with the way Cooper Rush is playing.
Yeah, he's playing really, really well, and it's fortunate the Cowboys have a pretty good history of guys like Cooper Rush and what Tony Romo eventually did, and when he was given a chance, and heck, Dak Prescott as well. We know that Dak's getting all the money. We know that Dak is a really pretty damn good quarterback. How much do you get right now on your timeline, in your mailbag or whatever it might be, that, oh, man, they ought to take their time. Cooper Rush is a better quarterback right now?
I mean, I'm getting a decent amount. And while I think it's silly, and I think whenever Dak is healthy and gets back, he just offers so much more in terms of what you can do offensively. And let's remember when he did play and didn't look great in that season opener, he didn't have Michael Gallup back yet. And the offensive line, I don't think was playing as well as it is now. So that's been a key to it for sure. But yeah, I see it on my timeline. And frankly, I know where it comes from. I mean, we live in an era now where, you've seen a Tom Brady take over for Drew Bledsoe. You've seen Kurt Warner come off the street and be what he became, even though obviously his numbers were far superior than what Cooper Rush is putting up. But then, we've seen Nick Foles in 2017 take the Eagles and win a Super Bowl and beat Brady and the Patriots. So, I get where people are coming from, and it is that wild story. Heck, that's how Dak got his job over Romo. I don't think the Cowboys see it that way. And when I say that, I mean, Mike McCarthy, the coaching staff, and things like that. Like Jerry likes to kind of push have fun with things and put stuff out there. And I think that from time to time throws gasoline on the fire. But I don't think anybody in the building realistically looks at it that way. They look at it as when Dak's ready to go, he's going back out there.
Is there anything whatsoever that Cooper Rush does better than Dak Prescott?
Part of me thinks that I feel, and I don't know, I guess I'd have to go back and watch every one of Dak's throws and things, but I really like the fade ball that Cooper Rush throws. He just throws it on and I think they see the trust in him too. You go back to the one he threw to Amari Cooper in the back of the end zone against Minnesota. I mean, just right on first down, not even hesitating, getting up there and throw it. Then you see the one that he threw to CeeDee Lamb, the one-handed catch in that left corner of the end zone up in New York. There's part of me that, not that Dak doesn't throw it well, but I just think Cooper throws it at a very high level. But other than that, obviously he knows the offense, but Dak knows the offense. He makes, he's made some good throws down the field, but Dak makes good throws down the field. Dak's obviously more mobile. So I don't really see many things. I just think he's in a good groove right now. And you know what? Let's be honest. He's playing in a spot right now where he's not going to have as much pressure on him as a Dak Prescott will either as a franchise quarterback, $40 million a year guy. He's playing where he can play kind of loose. I mean, heck, if you're Cooper Rush, aren't you going out there like, I probably shouldn't even be in the league right now. So let's just keep doing this and see where this goes.
Yeah. John, this is a better matchup for the Cowboys than obviously we would have thought even maybe 2 weeks ago. The Rams offensive line is a little bit in disarray right now. They don't really have any playmakers not named Cooper Rush. And even with Cooper Rush, he's kind of been their whole offense, so he's going to get his. They're not looking very Super Bowl ready right now.
I love that you called him Cooper Rush because I've been doing that all week too. Cooper. Yeah, I've been doing that all week too because I've been saying now, it's funny because my brother has him in his fantasy league, and I always joke with him. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Stafford's not playing well, but he's always going to get his, and it doesn't necessarily lead to wins. That's why fantasy is just so much different than actual football. But I feel like the Cowboys should just let Cooper Kupp do what he wants to do, and if he ends up with $175 and a touchdown, oh well. I think you can still beat them because up to this point, Matthew Stafford has not been able to get the other guys involved. He throws a decent amount to Higbee, but that whole acquisition of Allen Robinson, that hasn't done anything for them. And they're just not in the skill position players. They just have not had the success that they had last year. And the offensive line, is probably a big portion of that. We haven't been able to see Matthew Stafford with a ton of time to really kind of exploit a defense with his arm talent like we know he's capable of doing. He just doesn't have that time. And when he doesn't have that time, it leads to interceptions and bad throws and enforcing balls and things like that. And that just seems like a great mix for this team. Also, he's not very mobile. He's going to kind of stay in his spot. And that's exactly what a DeMarcus Lawrence and a Micah Parsons want. They want him to sit back there and then get a chance to tee off on him and force him into bad throws and sack him and things like that. And so I think this is a great matchup. I was surprised when the line came out and I saw it was 5.5 for the Rams because I just think that the Cowboys are getting them at a good time with how they're playing compared to how the Rams are playing. And to be honest with you, the biggest thing of all that stands out to me is it's a great time to play the Rams right now because where that team's at, I think it's silly to think that that's going to be their same team, 6-7 weeks from now. That team is built to win now. And they are a team that will go out and trade for somebody. They will give up picks. They will give up whatever they have to. They're trying to win right now. They're not going to sit with this roster. So play them right now before they go out and make a move and add a key player on either side of the ball. Like I just really feel like they're going to.
When you look at San Francisco, came into that game Monday night, they were 1-2, and they needed a win, and they dominated. Even though the game at time was up, they dominated that game, didn't they?
Yeah, no question. San Francisco absolutely has their number. I mean, the last several years, Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think ever lost to the Rams. I could be wrong in that, but he's been outstanding anytime that they've played the Rams. And so, yeah, you watch that game, and it's not difficult to see things the Rams did against. The 49ers did against the Rams that make you think, well, the Cowboys could do this, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I'm interested to, we'll probably talk to Micah tomorrow and to Marcus Lawrence and them. I'm going to be interested to see how they try and bite their tongues, because when they watch that team on film, they have to be absolutely licking their chops at what they could potentially do in this situation. And this has the makings of being that breakout game in terms of the takeaways too. They haven't had that big game yet where they get 2-3 takeaways and really flip the field. And this certainly could be it, because if Matthew Stafford's getting pressured as much as he was against the Niners, it could be a long day for that offense.
John, do you think we see more of Jason Peters this week? I know that Kellen Moore kind of threw out there that you could see Jason Peters, Farniok, and McGovern on at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny you say it, because I know that Mike McCarthy doesn't want to just be playing musical chairs at left guard. He eventually wants to settle in on someone. So every snap that Peters is out there, then McGovern's not getting it. And so then are you just rotating every series? And I don't think he wants to do that. But I also think that they want Jason Peters to continue ramping up what he's doing. I think he had 14 snaps the first game. He had 21 last game. I bet you they want to get that about 25-30 this game and see where it goes from there. They like McGovern a lot. I know that, but I think that Jason Peters just has a little bit more upside because of just what he's done in the league. And yeah, obviously there's not going to be much that you can do to Jason Peters that he hasn't seen in his long career. So I think he plays a little bit more, but I don't think we're at the point yet where you just say, yep, Jason Peters is a starting left guard and we're just rolling with him all game. I think Connor McGovern will still get the most snaps at left guard, and then Jason Peters will get his 25-30 there as well.
Have you stood in front of Jason Peters in any kind of a post-practice or whatever you might, because I know the access is back to being a little bit more like normal. Have you stood in front of him?
I haven't. I've stood kind of off to the side when he's run out a few times from the locker room. Yeah, he's big by even NFL player standards. Yeah. That's a huge dude. No doubt about it.
He's Flozell Adams and Larry Allen kind of like combined. He's a monster. The pride of Queen City, Texas, in deep northeast Texas near Texarkana. Thank you, John. Appreciate your time. Great stuff as always.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yes, sir. John Machota, theathletic.com, with the Cowboys and some NFL discussion. Cowboys and Rams, it's a good name, good matchup. But I watched that game. I've seen the Rams in a couple other games. Remember Jennifer earlier this week talking about they couldn't get the ball. Was it Allen Robinson? Mm-hmm. There's something. Cooper Kupp can catch 15 passes and nothing happens.
I'll tell you what the deal is with Allen Robinson is. I think he's done. I think he's done.
Oh,
I think
Allen
some guys
done?
he's playing, but you get this feeling like he's there, but he's just he's done.
So they used to have some weapons all over the place, and as he said, they'll figure it out. If they don't get something done, some guys don't start producing, they'll find somebody else. I don't remember if we mentioned this earlier in the show, and I'm sorry if we did, but Junior Thornton, a young man from Midway High School who we cover, a junior who was a wide receiver last year and most of this year, early this year, then became a quarterback. He's a dynamic talent, was given an offer last night. UTSA offered Junior Thornton. He, of course, just a junior and out for the rest of the year with that collarbone injury as they play tomorrow. Friday, Midway will play Temple. We'll have that game. This is 365 Sports, and the top five with Paul is next.
I had to cancel my lesson at Rayco Regional Tennis and Fitness today, and it broke my heart because I've been having such a great time doing it and playing tennis there with Joe Rosas. But Joe did send me a message for today's spot because I didn't get to kind of dive into what we got to do. I had a gas leak in my house, so don't ever have that happen at your house. It makes you for the worst day. But right now, here's the lesson specials. 4 private lessons for $220. That's a savings of $40 for the bunch and $180 for 10 clinics. Save $20. This is special for new new members at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. And if you've been thinking about, well, I don't know how to play tennis, I need to get involved, it's not just the individual lessons they have group activities as well. They got pickleball. They've got all these different things you can do to get involved in not only tennis, but other racket sports there at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. The facility is second to none. Joe does a great job with the lessons. It is just second to second of things that he notices that you're doing. Whether it's your footwork is just a little off. He'll tell you, do exactly what you did again. You're like, oh, your left foot's in the wrong spot. It's really unbelievable. He's a great instructor. You'll have a great time. Waco Regional Tennis on Lakeshore Drive, the new special for new members. 10 lessons, $180. $220 for 4 private lessons, and that's a savings of $40. You can't beat that. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikem sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sikem Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up And Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month. Includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 555.
Top 5 Coaches Heat Meter, Volume 4. Emery really likes working on these in particular.
Why? Because he likes to see people get fired?
No, I mean, I think he likes tension. I think he likes drama. That's why he's always watching Real Housewives and coming in and telling us about it. I don't know what his deal is with that, but that's his favorite show. He's got them all DVR. Real Housewives of wherever. He'll watch it.
Okay.
Just know that about him. Number 5, expensive fire insurance policy. Jimbo Fisher. While it's a little hotter around him, it's about a $90 million insurance policy for him, so he's fine. He's not going anywhere, but I did want to put him on this list because we talked about him today at length, but his buyout is far too big to do anything about him in the near future. They now have to convince him to be different.
Just win games.
Yeah.
Win what you're supposed to do when you get that kind of money, and also prop up all the great recruiting classes you're starting to put together and have put together. Win games. Be the quarterback guru you once were.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not on the hot seat.
Right.
He's got the huge buyout, like you said. So, yeah, he's got a lot of security no matter what's going on right now, and he's fine. Anybody saying anything differently is not up on game, quite frankly, because, yeah, he's barring them. I mean, even if there wasn't a buyout, what are they going to fire him for?
Well,
because he's not living up to what expectations exactly?
Yeah.
The expectations that they've never really reached? I mean, I know why they paid him the way they paid him was to do things that have never really been done there. But if he's not going to be capable of doing it with all that you've given him, who is? Are you going to go get Saban next? Are you going to go lure him from Tuscaloosa? Are we going to go pull Dabo from Clemson? Who is going to do that? So, yeah, I mean, this is what it is, and this is what they invested in, and maybe they'll see a return still. I think it's too early to call him a total failure and think that he should lose his job. But yeah, it's definitely not where it should be at this point.
Yeah, he's got to turn away from some of the stuff he's been doing and adapt. Number 4, is someone grilling or is this room on fire? Dana Holgorsen. This one could rapidly accelerate or drop very easily.
A grease fire?
Yeah, I mean, he could be just fine in a couple weeks, or if it really turns bad, then he could not be. They don't want to fire Dana Holgorsen. Tilman Fertitta, it's his handpicked guy, but what's going on there right now, it reeks of you're going to have a problem eventually. Craig, you said it earlier. There are problems now that seem like no matter what happens, even the rest of this year, will crop up again down the road with the way things are going at Houston.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't even know what problems there really are. All I know is it looks like Dana's a little stressed out, and obviously the players on the sideline thing. I mean, we haven't seen that happen again in a couple of weeks, at least to my knowledge. So maybe they smoothed that over, but I don't think the temper's going anywhere. I don't think he's changing personas, 40-something years or whatever he is into life now at this point. So, yeah, I mean, as soon as things get a little bit off the skids, I'm sure we'll see a sideline outburst and it'll be, same old Dana. But, yeah, I mean, they just need to go out and win some games now that the schedule's lightening up. And if they do that, I still don't think the noise goes away entirely because I think there's a segment of fans who just probably aren't ever going to like him no matter what. But, maybe there's enough of them that do feel like there's some strides being made that by the end of the year they're, happy with where they are, but I don't know. I think it's time will tell. Obviously,
I always, when I was, always wanted what do you call it? One of those indoor grills, like the flame and everything like that. I was always dangerous, but they had the vent and all that. Because if you're inside, I guess you can grill. Plus, they have these new grills there are all these new things you can. But, yeah. Okay.
I'll just tell you.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you can't really grill inside, but no, you damn sure can.
Have you ever been to a macaroni grill?
Yeah. No, I know. Or a hibachi area, yeah.
Macaroni Grill.
I always wanted one.
Free plug for you today on the program. Number 3, fire drill. Jeff Scott needs to start practicing getting out of the building pretty quickly because it's not going well.
Punch the glass?
Yeah, it is. It's not going well there, and they are trying to, make moves there in South Florida. They're trying to get an on-campus stadium built, all these things, and inspire fundraising donations, and Jeff Scott's just not winning enough to get that done.
Can I admit something here?
He's not winning at all.
Yeah.
50-something years later, when I was at Chofu High School in Japan, I popped the glass one time.
What happened?
Got in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to – when I was at an R-rated dorm, that was kind of a regular thing where somebody would pull the fire alarm. Or one time, a guy hit a sprinkler with a hammer and flooded the whole floor. God. That was a lot of water on a day without rain. But
I did that one time. I'm not proud of it.
Number 2, 3 Mile Island, Scott Satterfield.
3 Mile Island.
It is a meltdown in Louisville. They lost to Boston College last week, and Boston College has got a ton of injuries, and Scott Satterfield has not done himself any favors, and he's 0-3 in the ACC. He's got a terrible record in the ACC over his time. They already don't like him. He's on this list every week for a reason, and now it's 3 Mile Island. So it's bad. It's getting bad. It's probably this week or next, I would say, for Scott Satterfield. We've said what we have about him.
I haven't really paid.
I have nothing to add to him. I think I've said it like the last 3 weeks. He's in danger. I think that's very clear at this point that he is right there. Jeff Scott, same thing. Like those two are basically been there since week 1, week 2, basically. So he's remaining on there, and I don't know if there's a ton of signs that that's going to change the remainder of this season.
Yeah. And number 1, what's worse than 3 Mile Island? Chernobyl, Brian Harsin. I don't know, I guess they left him there to play Georgia as a bit of a sacrificial lamb this week, not wanting the interim coach to do that. But he might be there this week and next, and then they go into the bye. But it's just such a bad situation for him at Auburn. I feel bad for him, and I don't even know his complete side of the story just because to be somewhere for a year and in the spring of that year, everybody tries to get you out, and then you're trying to point it back in the right direction. I guess there's contractual things, but if they had tried to fire me last April like they did, I might have just said, fine, I'll go. I'll go. Give me the buyout, and I'll walk. But I don't know. I guess sometimes you get a lot of personal pride, and I get that. But Brian Harsin is going to be a head coach again somewhere else, and he'll be better, and people won't be in his business all the time.
And Troy Yount, Louisville, he's from Louisville, one of our viewers, there's so much money tied up in paying former coaches. I don't know. They could afford to pay Satterfield to go away, plus a new coach coming in.
See, that's the thing you got to take into account. There's the buyouts, obviously, is that are different with every coach, and that's why the Jimbo stuff. It's what is A&M going to do? Not even mind you the money, but I asked a second ago, what coach are they going to go get that's better than Jimbo in their eyes when they hire Jimbo? That no, we got that one wrong. Our bad. This guy is going to be the one that makes A&M the great powerhouse that it's always supposed to be in our eyes, and really nobody else is. I'm not trying to bag on him, but it's what else are you going to do at this point? That was your grand slam swing. Mm-hmm. That was your big swing at the plate. So he's not on a hot seat in the way that these other guys are. But it's something to monitor depending on how the rest of their season goes. But, Harsin just seems like a matter of time. Holgerson, I think, is going to be fine ultimately unless they just keep crashing. And then, Jeff Scott, just do it already. What is the wait? I don't know what his contract is, but Satterfield, if it's contractual, then that makes some sense.
Troy, here's a crazy scenario. Auburn fires Harsin. Boise fires Avalos. Harsin back to where he made a name for himself at Boise State.
If he would be up for doing that, it would obviously be a pretty easy little layup for Boise, but I don't know about the firing of Avalos.
Well, with Dirk Cutter lurking around, you never know. So
yeah, there's that too.
Hey, I made a mistake earlier today. I'm not afraid to admit it. Garland Bear, 84, you're the best. I mentioned Khalil Keith at left guard. He's a right tackle, so thank you for correcting me on that one. Tonight at 10:30 on Sports Tonight. It's Sports Tonight thanks to of course, our great sponsors, and Emory, what you do with that as well on the CW channel every weeknight at 10:30. Levi, Jacob, Emory, Garrett, Jack. I say this and I mean it. behind the scenes, what these guys are cranking out, pushing out, and also producing is phenomenal. We appreciate our sponsors and you, the viewers of 365 Sports, Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Have a great evening on Wednesday. This is 365 Sports, and good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas.